We're ready though.
All right,
Ready?
everybody, welcome. Welcome to the show. This is an impromptu. Well, we kind of planned this actually ages ago, and I didn't do it then, and we were going to do it last week, and it didn't work out because of the technology, because I'm just learning some of this. But basically, I'm here with our old friend Critiqued, and I'd like to welcome you back because it's been 5 years since I streamed with you back in 2020, probably.
Yeah. 5 long years. Thanks very much. It's good to be back. It's just like old times. But that's a good name, getting the band back together. And all the people that are already in the chat, sure, we know them all. It's just like the last show
It is,
Gail said.
yeah. It's 2018. Yeah, I see Emmanuel Godson straight in there. It's good to see you,
Yeah.
man. It's been a while since I've been obviously doing this. But I have a project ongoing, the Globalist Education Series. That's kind of what I'm putting my kind of main effort into at the moment. But I do plan on doing more streams now, and I'd like to cover a lot of different topics. I have a lot of research done that could be very interesting for people, and so maybe you'll find that interesting. But this is really just kind of a let's get in and have a nice chat about things and kind of. It's mad. Like, I mean, things have changed so much since the 5 years that I've been around. I mean, you were 2023 since you stopped streaming for a while,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
things have changed radically. It's like after COVID, the whole kind of landscape just shifted, and a whole host of new people are around now. There's whole people that I don't remember at all, and they're doing content. There's streamers. There's people doing millions of views on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. It's a whole generational thing. I mean, when we started out, I mean, I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of remind
It
people
is.
of what it was like when in 2016, around when we kind of got going. It was such a different environment, and you actually made me do the stream, and you actually kind of said to me like, "Come on, we have to do this," like because I was
Mm.
just doing videos, you know. But
Yeah, yeah, but you were doing good videos, and I just thought like and Ireland was kind of getting bad back then. It wasn't like anything like now, but you could notice that it was changing, starting to change. And I know in the last 5 years, like a lot more people are making content and all that, but I think it's a reaction to the amount of things that has been done to this country in the last 5 years, especially since Roderick O'Gorman got in. And I know he's out now, but just the things he did, and yeah, people are reacting. A lot of people are on TikTok. It is a generational thing. There's young people on that, but there's a lot more people on YouTube that are streaming. Like back then, there was only well, I'm not. I don't even want to count, but there wasn't many. You could count them on one
yeah,
or
there
two
was a
hands
handful. There was a
tops.
handful of people like, and there was a lot of there was a handful of accounts on YouTube, and on YouTube you could find anything in those days. And then
Yeah,
after the whole Brexit, Trump, and then there's this big change. All of a sudden, people started getting banned in 2017, just
yeah,
after there was a big clampdown in America, basically, and that changed everything. Because then you had BitChute and all these alternative media. So you had Gab and BitChute, and like it was D Live. I know you
yeah.
like D Live.
Had to.
You're about the only person who likes D Live that I know.
But I had to because I literally couldn't go anywhere else. Even my own YouTube channel hasn't come back. A few other people have got their YouTube channels back this year, especially in the last month or that. Mine hasn't come back. I tried to log in last week and it just said no. I got all the televisions stacked on top of one another. Something doesn't exist or it doesn't exist or whatever. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm still censored anyways, but probably because I was talking about things that were a little bit. Oh, I don't know. You know yourself.
Yeah,
can't even
yeah,
say it
of
here because we're
course.
still on YouTube. I can't say it
Yeah,
because
no,
we're on
let's
YouTube, but you know what I mean.
no, we don't need to be edge
On the
lords here, but
nose, I was too on the
yeah,
nose back then.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
So regardless, things have changed so much. The environment now, like people are talking about things like in a very open way
yeah,
um, over the last few years,
big
and it's
time.
just undeniable. Like people who years ago wouldn't have ever considered talking about like immigration or anything like that,
Mm,
or events in the Middle East or anything like that. They just wouldn't be interested in it, and because it's kind of plonked on their front doorstep, it's right there. It's right there. You can't escape from it. So it's like everything is being coming to a head. Like you're not allowed to avoid it now. So you'd want to be a particularly ideological person to avoid talking about it. Really, like.
absolutely, and especially I don't want to go into any particular ones, but just the crime wave, just those words, the crime wave. Everybody in every part of Ireland has probably heard of someone in their vicinity or in their locality, county, definitely that something has gone wrong with this thing, or somebody has been the victim of something very vicious or bad, or something like that, and that's making people angry. Especially like, well, not especially, but everywhere's just like is experiencing this. But like I live in Offaly, so yeah, there's one murder here that stands out big time, but like
Mm.
other parts of Ireland are experiencing other things like that as well, and it's making people just angry. And in the last 5 years, it's just heated up, and they've pushed us to the brink. And it's like the last 5 years they were pushing us, and I was wondering, like, is when the government came in last January, they're going to try and level off because they're gaining ground all the time, and they're giving us this impression, I think now, that it's kind of leveling off, and we're going to deport people and chartered flights and all this, but
Not at
it's not
all.
enough. Like, it's
Not at
not
all. It's
making a
never.
difference. It's a drop in the
It's,
ocean, is all it is. It's
no.
an act, I think.
No, and you see, there's a couple of things with this. I mean, I think it's a mistake. Like we used to talk about, like we were one of the first to kind of do the kind of like documenting, the kind of picking up on news stories and just kind of streaming about them and talking about them every week. We'd pick out a couple of stories, and
Yeah,
those days we were saying before we came on, like I mean, it's like a daily thing now. We'd find a story that would be like once in a month or something. There'd be some awful event happening. We'd do a stream about it, and it'd be like people would be shocked. This is like a daily occurrence now. You open Twitter any day of the week or Telegram, and you're just met with a list of stories from around the country, basically every county, basically. So that's all different. But in a
yeah,
way, it's actually futile, I think, to make it all about crime either. I mean, people know that
yeah,
there's bad things going on, but you actually have to have a positive vision for what you want to do. And I think
absolutely. Yeah,
making it all about it's just illegals, and it's just crime. To me, this is a major trap, and it's like this is
mm,
like the populist trap that you can fall into, where you don't actually have a vision. So when someone says, "Oh, you don't want anything, you just don't want, you're against this or that," and then they can give you a very simple response, which is that, well, we'll actually document all the people coming in, and we'll deal with the crime, we promise. And then you're kind
like
of
in the
left with no
CBDC.
position. Like
Yeah,
the majority of people coming in are legal, and they're economic migrants, and that's it. Like, and you have to have the courage to basically say, Ireland is our country, and we want to run it in a certain way. And if you're not going to say that, just get out of the way. As far as I'm concerned, there's no point in wasting time with just talking about crime or all the negative stuff.
100%.
And
No, no,
most
it's
people who come here are actually not criminals. They're not like.
absolutely. No, they're not. No, even the iPass aren't. That's not the issue at all. Like, it's demographics and just changing our culture and every part of it. The jobs part of it. They're taking all, like, everything. So, there's even like incentives for employers to hire these people and to, like, hire them over Irish people, where they get extra funding and all this from different schemes from the government. And yeah, it came out there today. I seen Karen Nolan tweeting it. I thought they were going to make these people pay for something, pay for their accommodation, but like they're allowed work and draw the dole, and they don't have to pay for accommodation. Like, that is literally just putting them up on a pedestal. And that, between that and the crime, I'm saying that's what's giving normies the reaction that you're seeing, where everything's heating up. People are online talking about it. They're making streams on YouTube. They're on TikTok. A different generation. There's people on Twitter right now. I'd say about 120 people in a space talking about the same thing, and it's because of all of that. But the crime really gets the people that have kids. That is
Yeah.
something that it just puts the fear in them, especially when they hear news like what happened in City West. And I don't want to go into it because
No.
I know it's
No.
it's shocking. But like, imagine if you've a 10-year-old girl yourself, or a 12 or whatever, 5-year-old girl, and you're looking at that and you're thinking that would drive you mad. So I know, like, it's a much bigger thing than just the crime. I think that's what gets people angry, and that's what they're fearful of, and that's why we're seeing such a huge
Yeah.
reaction, along with other things as well. But you need a positive thing. You can't be against everything. You have to be pro things, pro, like, Irish, not anti whatever. But that's, yeah, it's the way it's framed,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So there's a lot of, like, that's exactly it. Like there's a lot of anger, and there's a lot of will to change things. But it's more about, like, how do you create the institutional situation to actually change things? Because like, I'm obviously a critic of populist kind of ideas, and that's why I've never really been a believer in protests. Like, although I've gone to some, but, like, not that it has no utility, but it's more that you know like, I've been kind of studying how these different things kind of came to be, and you see that it's always elites who drive policy. It's think tanks, and it's legal. Like, when it comes to immigration, nothing has had a greater impact on immigration policy in the West than lawyers, human rights legislation. Like, this is coming out of the '60s civil rights revolution. This attitude that everyone has a right to arrive anywhere in the world, and this has been exported with America's kind of foreign policy, basically, and we live in it. Our elites picked up on this, and it goes back to the legal training. Like the lawyers are they're very much believers in human rights and all the rest of it. And they'll provide free legal aid often to a lot of these cases. They'll use test cases, like every negative change that's ever happened has been a test case somewhere in the European Court of Human Rights. Like just that's what happened to the Irish government. Like the Irish government there back in 2024, when they were trying to actually do something about the unvetted males that were obviously came in here from the north mainly. They were told by the European Court of they were in breach of the fundamental rights charter of the EU, basically. So, you can't avoid that without pulling out of that mechanism and creating an alternative legal structure. So how do you get there? Like, that's the step. How do you get there? Because with the populist thing, you have people who are angry and who want to change things, but if you don't have like the legal skill and the actual barristers who will actually fight for that and educate the people about how they can change these things, then you're just going to have kind of populist rabble rousing, which doesn't really go anywhere often. It just kind of leads to some guy getting elected maybe, but he can't really do anything necessarily. He doesn't really have the ability to change much, So
no. So like, so how do you need an institution that's going to, like, I don't know, an NGO that's going to advocate for the Irish people, for the people that are put out about this, or do we try and influence the government? Because like the only people I see that's influencing the government, I've seen it today, is the people like Holly Cairns, and the papers framing this like there was tense scenes in the Dáil when Holly Cairns said that Simon Harris's opinions on migration, which are so like light, those little opinions about we're just having too many migrants, like she's saying that this is terrible, like that he's copying Nigel Farage and this is just populism, and why is there tension over that? Why can't he say to her, shut your little mouth, you're a privileged, you know what I mean? You're a privileged person. You're from a wealthy family. You'll never have to deal with like that 16-year-old child in Athlone, or the 14-year-old in Ballaghaderreen, or the 10-year-old in City West. You won't have to deal with that, but the people do, and we're elected by them, and we're in government. Like, there shouldn't be tension. She shouldn't be able to bring tension to that situation. There's too much evidence in favor of like shutting her down when she tries to bring tension to that.
You see, but the trouble is what Harris is really doing. What Harris is really doing is he's basically just kind of, there's been a reaction to the election. Obviously, how it worked out with the spoil the vote was a huge success in terms of what it could possibly achieve. It was better than even I thought. I thought it was actually more than I thought would have, and that was great, But the trouble is that like the mainstream parties have straight away come out and they're kind of changing their rhetoric. Now, it won't transfer into any real change, but it will transfer into, well, we're going to run on immigration. Well, every American and British party in the last 50 years has talked about, like the Conservatives or the Republicans have said, we're going to do something about immigration. We're going to stop this. We're going to do this. And what do you get? You get a Reagan amnesty. And Trump will probably do the same thing. He'll probably do the same thing. Like, that's probably going to happen. And you'll just end up with, like, we just want them to be legal. And it's like, no, we actually just want them to go home. Like, that's really it, like, And I just, like this kind of, without a cutting edge, like, you don't have any hope of changing it, like, So that's the problem with populism, is that these parties come in and they'll kind of promise the milquetoast line. So the further we push them, they go a certain direction, but they're not going to actually materially change anything. I mean, when he made those comments there last week, he said basically the left has created a climate where people can't discuss immigration. Well, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil created that in teamwork with the left. If you go back 25 years to the late 90s, all of this was getting constructed. Irish government has signed up to these kinds of policies basically going way back, and it was tied to our economic development. And so we have been wedded to this kind of economic, globalized economy, and hand in glove comes with that driving immigration. And then when the EU opened up with the Eastern Bloc countries, basically, that's when, you remember that time. I mean, it was like overnight, like all these guys started coming in and were working here. And, that contributed to the Celtic Tiger. It overheated the economy, and...
Yeah, it did damage to us in the long run.
In a way, yeah. Like,
and think of this, right?
Growth, but...
Helen McEntee was Fine Gael, and she wanted to bring in hate speech laws for 2 years for literary words. Simon Coveney, absolutely a globalist, and he was very in with Peter Sutherland. So, like, for Simon Harris to come out and say that, it kind of is a new energy. Remember, he had that slogan, "This is a new
The new
energy."
energy, yeah.
It took him
But
a year to
energy
get.
doesn't mean anything. You know what I
No,
mean? Like
no,
energy
but
is
just
like,
saying,
it's bollocks.
it's a
Like, and
pivot.
this
Yeah,
to me,
exactly. Because
this
it's
is
them
really
that
infuriating. Like when you look at this, like we've been
they
looking at it
caused
for
it.
so long, like we've made nothing out of this. There's no advantage to us talking about this. And then these guys come in, well, we're going to do this, and they don't actually do anything. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to do anything. And then so you have these guys in the way, like, and they'll just buy time. They'll buy time, and then another 4 or 5 years goes past, and nothing is done.
You mean the
So
government?
yeah,
Yeah.
and even Sinn Féin is getting in on it. Like, do you know what I mean? They're getting in on. Oh, we have to deal with iPass, and it's a crime, and it's like, well, you guys were standing on the street shouting at people for the last 5 years, 10 years, when people were protesting. I mean, who was showing up to the protests, to the so-called counter protests? They were a huge part of it.
They were,
You know?
yeah, they were, and they wanted the hate speech laws. And now I see
Yeah.
them behind. They're now tricolours. Like,
Yeah.
5 years ago, they would have been ashamed of the tricolour when we were streaming back then.
Well, they don't want us to use it. Like, yeah.
They wouldn't have been using it, and it was very seldom. They never talked about anything to do with patriotism or even the 1916 or anything like that. But like lately, they've kind of pivoted as well. That they've been highlighting different anniversaries of stuff and all that.
Yeah.
Like in the last couple
If
of years.
you watch them long enough, like they basically are a populist kind of party. Like they're very good at picking up issues and kind of using them for their own ends. But materially, they're on board with the civil rights kind of paradigm, and they're a third worldist kind of mindset. They're very much, aligned with the Palestine thing. They can't, so therefore they can't actually say no to anyone moving to your country. Like, ethically, they can't say no to it. Like, but they'll just use the populist thing, and talk about house crisis. I see somebody, last Gale said in the chat there a while ago, like they're talking about the house crisis. This is the big kind of the big thing like that's going on, as big as the crime or anything. It's actually more because it affects more people. People literally can't get a home. And the left wing is out there basically, and they give you this absolutely useless kind of agenda, which says, well, everyone is entitled to a home. Well, the current iPass system was created because they wanted to destroy direct provision. And direct provision, for all its flaws, like it basically kind of kept people from becoming citizens as easily. And these left-wing activists were central to dismantling that. And again, they were legal people. These were legally trained people who were doing this. And
they come up with the white paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Roger Gorman used.
And there was a group called Abolish Direct Provision, and they've been at that for like over 10 years, I believe, trying to get rid of pretty much actually since direct provision was created in the early 2000s. They have been basically trying to destroy direct provision, and so they have then demanded that every asylum seeker be brought in and given their own door accommodation, they call it, and so within 4 to 6 months or something like that. So that means that they're contributing to the problem,
Yeah, and it means when you announce that half the world comes here looking for that. Of course it does. And I'm not even blaming them. Of course they're going to come here, and O'Gorman tweets it out in 6 languages. And we would have talked about that back then when it happened, but like that is what caused the floodgates. And then at the same time, Micheál Martin was on British TV saying, yeah, we're taking in Ukrainians. We're not doing any background checks. And the woman that was presenting the TV show said, are you sure? Like, you're not doing background checks? She said, no. I remember him distinctly saying it like that. No. We think it's an emergency. There's a war. We're just letting them in. And that's just, and they're still coming in like Ukrainians. Like I was saying there a few minutes ago, they're just thinking about, and I don't know if they're like, they are separate from iPass, but I don't know if they're charging them for accommodation or if I think they are allowed work and draw the dole at the same time. But definitely the people on iPass are allowed. And that is some kick in the teeth for everyone from Ireland.
Yeah. I don't know how people look at that. I don't know how anyone could look at that, and you're looking at your child, like who you tried to raise and do the right thing with, and they're sitting in their childhood bedroom in their late 20s. I mean, when I was in my like early 20s, I was already moved out. I was completely independent. Actually, before that, I was independent basically, and I didn't have that. Like it was easy to find accommodation. Like I remember you get an apartment for like 60 quid for a room for a week, no problem. Anywhere in the country, pretty much. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no problem, easy, grand, and the situation, like it's like, and post the COVID thing, like it's gotten so much worse. Like it's like apocalyptic for young people. Like there's no crack going on. They can't afford to drink. They can't go get a house and live together and have all that fun that people have when they're that age and they're just starting to get out of their parents' house and all.
Can't even get college accommodation.
Can't even get college accommodation, yeah. I mean, that is just absolutely crazy. And how this is like, these people then are being siphoned into the left wing, which I find just incredible to think about. How could a person in that situation possibly vote for the Social Democrats or something like, or the Green Party? You
Pure
know,
evil. Yeah.
it's
Pure
amazing.
indoctrination and just youngness, youth, naively. It has to be just not enough life experience, just not realizing that these people are what they've done is the reason that they're probably out protesting saying we need houses or something. I think I've seen students doing that maybe, and they should be protesting against the parties that they're involved with or the ones that they support. But it's just the government, the government, the government, and everything's the government. But why
Yeah.
they should realize who's influencing them. There's a great example today. Look at Holly Cairns causing tension in the door. Holly Cairns, whoosh, that's what I'd say. You just relax. That's it.
Yeah, but aren't they a lot like they're a lot like nuns, like these kinds of leftist types, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like they're very religious, like they have a religious radicalism in them. Like that's one of the things I'm always kind of bringing up,
You're 100%.
because I think like the left is essentially a religious movement that is of activists, like they're incredibly extreme, like. And so if you look at how they kind of hold themselves and carry themselves, all this moralizing that goes on.
Yeah.
You know, all this like, oh, we've an obligation, and oh God, it's awful. Even Catherine Connolly, like the new president, looks like that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, the other night, one of them said on the TV, one of these women on the matriarchal Irish TV media, mainstream media, because that's all I ever see on is women and gay men. But anyways, that's all that's on it. But she said it would be impossible to stop asylum seekers. Like ever since 1958, we've been allowing people, but not on this level. And there's nothing. She was saying that we're obliged. Like there's nothing in Irish law that says we're obliged to put our own people or leave our own people homeless while we put these people in houses. We're not obliged to do that, and you're certainly not obliged to allow them to work, sign, and pay no rent. Like that, think of the money. No wonder I see them going around. So there's people in my town that can work, sign, and pay no rent, and they're going around wearing clothes like worth $1,000 or that. Like that is some kick in the face for the Irish people. That has to be orchestrated, and it's even if it's not, like it's such a demoralizing thing. But I think they planned that. That's all part of it. I think just to get you desensitized to that kind of a situation. I'm not sure, but it's scandalous. I don't know how parents. You're dead right. Like looking at their own kids in the box room are putting up with that and not saying anything. That this lad that came here that knows nobody, he's no ancestry here, no parents, no nothing, never contributed nothing, doesn't even hardly speak English, but he's allowed work, sign, and pay no rent. It has me drove mad. It's actually annoyed me that much today that I tagged Jim O'Callaghan on X, and it's probably the most relevant tweet on the whole X today that I seen is my own tweet tagging him in Karen Nolan's post about that he's not going to even address this till 2027, and it got no interactions. I think I'm shadow banned. I got 30 views and 2 likes, and it's like ridiculous. There's people up there that are just saying Ireland belongs to Irish, and they're getting like 1,000 likes for nothing. Like
I know, yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, that's literal activism there, and it's ignored. So I'd be saying, why do I bother? And it's the same with the COVID thing. Why do I bother keep traumatizing myself talking about excess deaths and all this? Because I didn't take it. I warned people not to do it, and it's the same with this. But still, we're doing it. Still, I feel like I have a responsibility to highlight these things, and that's why it just annoyed me. I tagged Jim O'Callaghan and I said, "Make it make sense." That's what I said.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, I understand what you're saying, like with the COVID stuff and all too. And I just because I left social media basically during that time. Like my opinion generally is that that was like a psychological thing more than anything else, and like it kind of broke people apart in a way. Like I think it's have to wreck in people's minds more than anything. Like I mean, whatever about the data about excess, that's not. I don't really know about all the ins and outs of it. Like, but I actually think a lot of the alt media is actually as a part of. If there is a psyop, like I think the alt media, a lot of it is part of it too. Like because there was a lot of shite going around too.
Yeah.
With all that, like and it's like. I just felt like I was being fucked with the whole time at every angle. Like no matter what you click on, like there's one guy telling you there's snake venom in the vaccines. There's another guy telling you that everyone's going to be dead in 6 months. Like and there's things the length of this coming out of people's fucking arms and all. Like I don't know what to like. What do you want me to do with this?
And then there's people that are fine. Like that's the thing. Now I do know people that passed away quickly after taking the jab, but then I know people that are fine. But there is excess. Like if you look at RIP stats before 2019, during 2021, 22, and 23, that's true, right? If you add them up, and then there's different stats CSO, and then there's different stats from Eurostat, but they're not all the same. And then there's the age and population. Like people are using graphs from 2015 to 2005, and what I'm saying is like there is a small section of those people that would have been getting older during that 10-year period going
Well,
into their
that's what I
60s,
think.
70s, or
Some of it
80s.
too, you know.
How
Like
do
I'd
you
like to see a
extrapolate the
proper,
excess that's from that? That's all.
yeah, I'd like to see a proper analysis, like taking into account the aging population. You know, and they should be able to do that. Like, and I just haven't really seen it. Now, maybe there's people doing that, you know, but like I can say, I just kind of I've checked out on all that stuff because, like, I just didn't take it. I decided pretty much 6 months in, like, okay, it's a bunch of bullshit. I'm just not going to take the injection, and I'm going to resist as much as I can, and then I'm going to live my life, because like the way I look at it, it was a psychological operation. People are being manipulated, and so society is being basically. It was actually Orwell. It was absolutely like dystopian. The whole thing, like the way we had to like go through this fucking these rituals, like the masks, the fucking everything, and
A nightmare.
you know, you had
But there was
and
people
families.
affected.
Oh yeah, family. I've
seen
seen families
videos.
affected by it and all, like, and like I knew people that had it like early on, like, and they were fairly sick. Like I got it like after like a year or so, and it was pretty mild. Like I just felt a bit shit for a week, pretty much. But
Well,
like I know
kudos to
people
them.
that have taken the things, and they definitely did have reactions as well. Like,
Yeah.
now, and I can surmise about other people who might have had more extreme reactions, but I don't really know if it was that, you know. But
Well, there
like,
is a page on Telegram, COVID vaccine injured, and there's videos of people from America that
yeah,
upload them, and they tell you straight out, women, like, I took this in good faith, and look at me now, and she's
yeah,
shaking, and there's red patches all over, and there is stories like that. But the problem is, it's so random. Like, and this is why it's hard. I don't like talking about it unless I know the entire thing from top to bottom and have all the facts right. Like, it's so random that if it was orchestrated, or if it was a conspiracy, it was done perfect, because it's very hard for anything to be just explained straight to somebody. Like, right here, it's like this, and this. No, it's just random, because they can turn around and say to you, "Well, my granny's fine," or "My uncle's
yeah,
fine," or "I'm fine," even. So that's why I think, and I did notice a lot of people that talk about it are getting less and less interactions as they do. People are kind of switching away from it. I think
yeah,
people just want to move on because it was so traumatizing.
yeah. And
But
how can
I
you can't
still
keep
feel
talking about
heartbroken.
the same thing over and over again either. Like, you know, like you can't go
No,
over the same ground again and again.
oh
And
no,
you know,
not
at
if
a
you're not
certain
new.
yeah, at a certain point, like you just have to say, well, that's that. Like, if that's they did that, and like,
And you took it.
you know, like I didn't take it, you didn't take
No, I
it.
mean not you,
Like, we passed the
but
test. You know what I mean?
but people that would expect you to talk about it. Like, every time I look at these videos, it's traumatizing, and I'm thinking, God, like, it's so evil if that's the case. And so, like, I'm saying, like, it does. It's not good for my mental health looking at this shit. I didn't take it. I warned people not to. I remember making a video with Saoirse Aaron, was the girl's name. We made a 3-part video debunking this thing and just talking about all the different things that were in the vials and everything. And she was pleading with people not to take it. And those videos are still on BitChute. And what more can you do? I
Hmm.
can't keep going over the same ground, like the same stats, same stats. Everybody has seen them, especially everybody that's questioning things, especially on X. They've seen it because Ashley O'Loughlin, that ex-journalist from TV3, she talks about it a lot. So
Yeah,
people do follow her. She's a lot of followers, so people follow her and they see all this. So I don't know what the next step would be. I see other people saying that people on Twitter are saying that like big accounts should be talking about this excess debts, but I'm just
yeah, but
thinking
you
like
need to
they need
analyze
solid
the excess
evidence.
debts. Like, yeah, you need to analyze that
Yes,
properly, and you need to
it
know.
can't be
Like,
great.
I mean, like I've seen charts that basically, like, I think it was one of her charts there last week, and it was, I think there was like a couple of percentage points of increase between 2015, like, and this year or something. So it's like a 9 year spell, like, and
Mm,
you know, that was just like from RIP.ie data. And it was like a tiny increase, really. I mean, I think that could be accounted for by the fact that the native population has aged so much, potentially. You know, you like,
yeah,
I just don't
no,
know.
but there
Like, I'm
was
just not
reactions.
convinced. Yeah,
The myocarditis is admitted, but yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Like, I don't know if it's a huge number, but how many is it? Like, it's about. They reckon at the end of 2024, it was 24,900. Just said 25,000 over the space of 4 years. So it's about 6,000 a year, 6,000 whatever, 250. So it's not huge. No, you're right, but it does stand out as more people.
yeah. Like,
But
I found her graph was dishonest. Like, if anything, you know what I mean? It was like presenting. It had like a big red line on the 2024 data, and I was like, well, it isn't any higher than the 2015 data. Like, really, like, you know, it's not that much higher. Like, you know what I mean? Hang on, you're gone.
yeah, I'm gone for a sec.
Okay, that's okay.
I'll be
I
back in
thought
a
I had
second.
broke some. That's
No,
okay.
no,
That's
no,
okay.
no.
Yeah.
You
So,
didn't. Yeah,
you know,
so
we didn't actually
yeah,
plan on talking about COVID anyway. I mean, ultimately, like
No, we
it's
didn't.
it's is what it is, you know, and people can decide for themselves. Like, you know, they're entitled to believe what they want to believe, you know, and what the evidence shows. But like I said, I'm not fully. I think a lot of the alt media is just spins a lot of bullshit itself. Like, you know, a lot of like people aren't critical enough of alt media. Um, Sometimes, you know, they kind of, just because it's not the mainstream media doesn't mean it's credible either. It doesn't mean you should blindly accept everything it
No,
says. You know.
you should double check everything yourself.
Yeah.
Definitely. Some people are using AI a lot lately. Maybe we'll talk about that as well at some stage. But AI has to be double checked as well. Be careful about that, because
Yeah.
AI,
It's a
on
useful
many
tool. Like,
occasions,
yeah.
it's a useful tool, yeah, but you have to double check it, because sometimes it'll say to you, "Oops, I made a mistake, and you were right. Whatever you're looking up is you were given a wrong answer by the AI." That happens a lot. So, but it is a useful tool, especially for profiling anybody or looking into the background of some video or anything like that. It's great for that. But your information on it like would have to be checked twice. Absolutely, same as Telegram or anywhere like that.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean,
there's a
I
lot
just
of alt
actually,
media.
there's a lot of it. And
No.
like there was that you know, and what's that guy? That Stu Peters is one of the guys. He popped up during COVID, like, and he's become a huge star. You know what I mean? And then he
Mm.
rode that into, like, now he's the anti-Zionist guy. He's
Yeah,
all on that, like, Israel, 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 APAC, APAC. And I was like, I'm just burnt out on this. Like, I read this shit a decade ago. Like, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of
yeah.
moved on with
But
my
if I was
life. Like,
American and I was only reading it 2 years ago, I'd probably be reacting like that as well. I'd be angry if I didn't
yeah,
realize.
yeah. But what's
But
his
I don't
deal?
know how
Like, you
genuine
know
it
what I
is.
mean? Because the way I see it, like, not just him either. There's just an example. Like there's people
No.
making a living out of just talking about that now. Like, whereas like you couldn't write some of this stuff on a fucking Twitter comment a couple of years ago without losing an account. You know, but someone can just write like N word, whatever, all over Twitter now, like, and it's like 10 million likes.
Hmm.
You
And
know,
that
so
makes
like,
me
what's going on?
skeptical.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I keep thinking, is there some other agenda? Are they trying to run us down, or just burn it out? And everybody's talking about Zionism as well from America. And I don't want to get into that big time around. I should have even said that word, but they are. And it's undeniable. There's things going on Twitter. They're constantly back and forth between MAGA people and other people that are claiming to be MAGA and all this. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's nonstop. Once you go on X, man, it's just like, I think
yeah,
you just end up doom scrolling through all that stuff. But
yeah. I
Stu
tell
Peters,
you
I
that.
like some of his stuff.
Yeah,
Like, I
I'm sure
think
he's
he could be
fine. Like, you
genuinely
know what I mean?
angry. He
Yeah,
could
he
be
could be.
genuinely angry that he just found out a
Yeah,
lot of that stuff. Um,
yeah,
but I don't know. Yeah, well, I meant to
yeah.
make a
But
point there. I think I lost.
the conspiracy theorist in me kind of looks at a lot of this kind of new alt media landscape, and I'm kind of going like, are we just in a fucking box shouting at leftists? Like,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah,
like
they've
my
just been burnt out.
belief is that there's actually no point in even talking to the left anyway, for the most part. Like, you're not going to actually get anywhere. They're not
No.
really in charge. Like, they're like there's two basically fringe political movements, right? On the, you know, and in reality, the system is a system. Like, it's a collection of institutions. Universities produce all of the intellectuals and academics and specialists, and they populate think tanks and foundations and fucking councils and governments and all the rest of it. And it's all a kind of a system, like. And so if you're not kind of thinking in terms of systems, and in how do you interface with that, are you just shouting at someone on Twitter? Like, I got onto Twitter, I'm not even on it a year now. I have a little over 300 followers. Like, I haven't got exactly exponential growth or anything. I try and tweet maybe once a day, a couple of times, and that's it. Like, and I've put tweets out that I think are decent, but the majority of Twitter, in my opinion, is a slot machine. Like, it's just
Yeah.
non-stop slop. Like, there's accounts there that are just like they pull up like some event, some awful thing happened in Germany, in 2019 or something, and they'd be like, "Look what happened in Germany today. The Germans are rising up," and all this, like, and it's like a statue avatar. You can smell the curry coming off of it, like, and it's all monetized. It's like 10 million views. And then there's the conspiracy slop. This is another category. I tweeted about it the other day, like, yesterday. Like, the conspiracy slop, where people put out blatantly fake conspiracy stuff. Like, Klaus Schwab is I saw that was the one yesterday. Klaus Schwab is a Rothschild. It's like, that's not true. Like, you can easily find out who he is. Like, it's easily widely available. And this will be like, whatever it was, 10,000 likes or whatever it was. Do you know what I mean?
But
to
I
this.
do
Like,
think there was funding for the WAF from them back then. There is some link there. Definitely Henry Kissinger was involved.
yeah,
But
Henry
I
Kissinger's
remember
involved. Yeah,
reading that. But I remember reading funding came from them for that NGO. But
but see
at some
that
place.
actually.
So I could be reading lies.
Well, I tell
Go
you,
on.
right? Even this WEF stuff, like the people single out WEF. This is the center of the need. Like you can read Irish Times articles from 2006 talking about the WEF, like, and Bertie Ahern going to it now. Like people used to call it Davos. It's Davos, and and then with the scamdemic stuff and all, Davos was like, this is the center of it all, and he's rubbing a cat in Davos, and this is what's going on. And like I've never really seen how that's the case. That's a forum. It's one of many fora. No, it's not unimportant, but at the same time, like there's a lot of junk conspiracy put out there about this, like, and it's like,
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
you know, like, and now he's gone. Now Larry Fink is the guy, isn't he? Isn't that the guy that took over? Larry Fink.
Is
I
it
think.
the WEF? I'm not
Yeah,
sure, but
someone
he's over
someone else took it
BlackRock
over.
anyway.
Yeah, someone else
Um,
took it over anyway. Our Klaus is gone now,
Yeah, like
so
these lads aren't elected, none of these. So like we can't even do anything about them. Like we could say like back then a lot of people were naive when Bertie was going to the WEF. Nobody was looking into this. We thought they had our best interests at heart. But since we've seen people like McEntee saying that she's floated the idea of giving 2 years jail to people, people are starting to look into where are they getting these orders from, these things that are again like going to hurt our
yeah,
people, like different things. Where are these coming from? These influences, and it leads people to just assume things and to just put two and two together, and they might get the wrong answer. But I do think there was some people that were loyal to that WF, like Leo Varadkar. He was mentioned by Schwab as like one of the young
yeah.
global
They have
leaders at
young
the
global
time.
leaders, and they do select people like and bring them in.
They
Like
shouldn't
Varadkar is
have.
in. Like
He's
Varadkar is
not
an
elected.
interesting case because, like Varadkar, if you look at his career, like he's what is he? He went to the King's Hospital School, which is like a very posh Dublin. I guess Ratgar or something. Maybe it's not. I can't remember. It's in Dublin anyway, and it's a posh school. Like a lot of famous people have gone there, and then he's been in America. Like he was over in America as when he was a young guy in Fine Gael, and now he's back after being Taoiseach. He was on the Time magazine cover. Time is another CIA front, like for famously, going back years.
Mm.
He's at the Harvard Kennedy School, which is the biggest glow in the dark factory in America, basically teaching. And you're kind of like, well, it's not just WEF, like it's like, and now he's in the Club of Madrid. There's another one of these think tanks. He's in the IIEA in Dublin. And so the point that I'm
Jeez.
making is that like these are nested institutions. Like there's layers of this going on, and you won't find like a direct like it's Klaus with the cat in Switzerland, like you know what I mean. And there's a lot of that kind of like just shite,
Mm.
and
Just yeah.
it's like that. That's the populist thing. That's why I fucking
Mm.
hate the populist thing because like it
Like
actually
certainty with
takes
things
yeah, and
that are great.
it takes the consciousness of people like and just focuses their anger on this like, and there's guys monetizing this and like they're talking all about it like and yet I don't see the rigorous kind of
It's
analysis
amazing.
like to prove a lot of these things and to really flesh out the details. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I think it's just more complicated. I think what we're living in is a managerial technocratic society. Like people say we're going to have a technocratic society with AI and with with the what's the thing that's coming out now, the pass, the Brit pass or
Oh
whatever
yeah,
they have in England and
CBDCs
all
and
that.
all that.
Yeah,
Digital
yeah,
ID.
central bank
Yeah.
digital currencies, yeah.
That's
And like, yeah, that's
total
fair enough.
control.
Like it's a total control. But
It
the
is.
actual architecture of that is really old, like, it's
Yeah.
like it's actually a mindset, it's a paradigm, and
Yeah.
and
It's
that's
not since the 90s.
yeah,
I
well
shared a
those
video yesterday.
technologies go back even
Yeah,
earlier, but like,
absolutely. That's what I was just going to say. Yeah,
yeah,
so these systems are in place, ready to go. Like China is already under that thing where you get the credit score, or even they put people up. Everyone knows this. They put your name up if you don't have so many credit scores and try to socially shame you. So I don't know why we're not in it yet. Like why didn't we grow up in this? Well, it's probably because there's pushback. There's a to and fro going on, like between elites who want it and ones that don't, and institutions that do and ones that kind of don't. Um, so yeah, I think that's what it is. Like only for that we'd be probably locked into it by now. And it's still a battle, an ongoing battle. We can't let them put us on cards like that, what they're doing in
yeah,
England. And I don't think England is going to put up with it either. Like if they do, That's it. It's total control, because literally over there now they can lock you up for your words, and then they can also, I don't know if they even said they're going to use it like that, but you'll have a digital ID. It's the first step to them being able to take away money out of your account, or even stop you having access to it if you said the wrong things. I know it's not at that yet, but it could be a step towards that.
Yeah. Well, it is. They're
It
definitely
is.
moving that direction.
Definitely is. Yeah. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but they haven't said anything here about bringing in that yet, though.
Yeah, but
But
again, that'll be
they're
part of
talking
the
about
ECB,
migration.
like, you know. It's,
Yeah, they're talking about migration. So this is why I'm worried that maybe they're saying they're talking about migration, and he's saying there's too many coming in and all this, and this will end up being a solution.
yeah. I think that's
Apparently.
actually very possible. What's going on is that they're actually going to use the immigration. It's very obvious. I think that they're definitely going to instrumentalize the immigration issue because they know people are angry. So if you get people angry, it doesn't matter if they even know that what you've done is responsible for it. You're giving them this way out, like, and so like that was a lot of with the scamdemic. Like it was like people were given the option, like, you know, we're putting you under this psychological stress. And so if you want to make the stress stop, you can just take this easy way out. Like, here's the blue pill, here's the injection. Just go take that, like, and you know, go back to normal life. Like, and most people will accept that. And that's the scary thing for me, like, is that I actually think it would take a serious reaction to stop the digital ID and everything, because I think most people are basically lazy and they basically just want the easy way out, which is what's the same with immigration. People don't like it. People forever, like, people have resisted immigration to their country. Like, you can look at polls going all the way back to when it started here in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, after EU expansion and all, and
Always, majority
2003
didn't
or
want it.
whatever that was. And the
Yeah.
majority were against it, and the politicians had to make the right sounds. But at the same time, the politicians were working with the different NGOs to basically manufacture the situation that we have now, which is they wanted to drive immigration in to pump the economy. And like that paradigm, we have to break that economic paradigm. Like, how do you break that? How do you instigate a change like that? Like, because we're in the EU, it's very difficult to change. And even if you weren't in the EU, how would you actually align yourself internationally? Like, you know, because in reality, like, if we didn't have a globalized economy, like, our economy literally would be fucked. Like, really, you know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
no
it
easy
would.
way. Like, you're not
But it
going
might
to
have took a
magically
different route
create.
in the
Yeah,
last 10 years. We might have actually focused on an indigenous economy instead of just taking it for granted that American corporations will be here forever. Like, but exactly, you're right. Like, if that was just taken away now, there would be nothing. So yeah, I'm still thinking about like that they're gonna. Remember, you were saying like not everybody is affected by crime, but everyone's affected by housing. But people don't have to be affected directly by crime. Just hearing about it happening down the road in a different town, that affects everybody. So I think what they might be trying to do is just let that happen. Let everyone get so demoralized that if the solution is CBDCs or digital ID, people will eventually say, yeah, yeah, you matter what. Of course we'll take that if he's going to deport people and he's going to close the borders. But you have to like get onto this digital ID. I think people
yeah,
will accept it because you've seen the things that went along with during the coup. It was the ultimate
yeah.
test of obedience, and 90% of people stayed obedient the whole way through.
Yeah.
Couldn't
That's
believe
what
it.
I found, like, is that during the scamdemic and all that, like, it was actually frightening. Like, it was like an absolute proof of everything I'd ever read about human psychology. Like, you often have, like, I do, like, where you want to believe that, oh, people actually would do the right thing, and they would say no, and they would laugh about how ridiculous all this was. But in reality, people will just say, what's easier? Like, well, sure, I don't want to be a
Yeah.
weirdo, you know? And that's kind of how it was. And most people I know that even took it, like, they didn't have any particular strong issue with with taking it or anything. They weren't like
No.
really bought into the paradigm, but they just went along with it, like, you know what I mean. That's the kind of soft. Like, I heard it said, like,
It's the
there's
science.
generally about 10% on either side, like, and then there's about 80% of people who are kind of in the middle, like, you know, or maybe 50% of people who are basically just will go along with wherever the power is, like.
Yeah, where the
And so
majority is.
whatever the paradigm is, they'll just go along with that paradigm and take part in it. And because they want to have a career, they want to be successful economically and socially or whatever, they don't want to take a stand. So most people will just never take a stand. So that's how society is kind of structured like that. And so the establishment know that. And like that's why with the election, they're kind of like they're using the rhetoric now of like kind of, you know, anti-immigration rhetoric, because they realize, okay, there's actually a good portion of people now who will react to that. So we have to kind of defang that and pull them back into like voting for Fine Gael or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah, people, I think they will go along with whatever if that's the only solution. And it depends on what's on the table. Like if they say, because the same people that are affected, that the same people that were pressured like into the job, that had things to lose because they have families and they can't give up their job and they can't have an opinion on anything because they're afraid to lose their job or whatever, they're the same people that will be affected by this, like, see, or be targeted by this. People that have kids that are worried about like crime, as I just said, or housing or anything like that. It's the same people. So yeah, I think like they're going to try and just give them something that they want, even pretend or even say like we're going to give you everything that they ask for. Deportations, like what we have in all the polls down through the decades, like 80% of people always said like we want less of this. So if they just say like we'll give you all this, but there is a little catch, we'll have to bring in digital IDs because all of Europe is going that way, and we can't be the odd ones out, and we can't have Russia giving us digital IDs. We have to take it from Europe, like, because that might happen or something.
Yeah,
They'll
well,
probably say
the
that as an
sell
excuse.
is like we haven't got the technology to stop it. Like, so that's why they always pull that
Yeah,
bullshit. Like, there's guys on jet
absolutely.
skis coming into the cliffs of Dover, like, and we, the RAF, just can't possibly stop this from happening. How could this be happening? You know what I mean? We can go to war in the Falklands, but we can't stop these fellas on jet skis coming from France. Like, you know, like it's just an absolute joke. Like,
It's
of
ghastly.
course you can. Like the technology exists now. You can look at people from satellites. Like for fuck's sake, you don't need to like, there's no like. It's because they want it. Like, you know what I mean? It's easy to
Yeah,
stop immigration. Immigration is really easy to stop. You stop
yeah.
creating the incentives. That's it. Like, that's literally
Remember
it.
we
You know?
that is it. Yeah. Remember you said last week when we had a little chat, like the amount of people that have been moved around since World War II. So yeah, they can move people
Yeah,
around when they want to. Absolutely, millions of people can be moved in the space of 5 years, anytime. And
yeah.
that's a
The
very good
shit,
point because people forget that. People
like
think
the
this
shit
is
lib.
inevitable. The media tell you it's inevitable. We
Yeah,
have it since 1958. But no, you were right. Like if they want to move them, they can move them. They're able to do it.
yeah. Like the
But
shit lib opinion is famously, oh, it would be unthinkable to move people who have roots here going back 10
oh, you
years
can't.
or 20 years. Like, mate, like that's nothing.
Roots.
That's
That's
nothing.
roots.
People were moved from parts of Europe that had been in for like centuries in some cases. Like people have left to go to America. People left Europe and they never saw Europe again after living there for millennia. You know, like there's actually nothing radical about it. Like what's radical is what's happened in the last 50 years. That's what's radical. You know, demographic transformation. That's radical. Like what
Yeah.
these people like because of the
Telling you it's
demographics
inevitable.
of the
Yeah.
planet. Like there's population explosion in basically the subs in the Middle East, North Africa, and Southern Africa. Like, and that's basically creating a population surge, and they're sending their unwanted men basically to us. And because we're a soft post Enlightenment type society, where we believe in all these human rights and equality, and
Mm.
everyone is the same,
Blank slate.
and everyone's a blank slate. Everyone is literally like I tell you in the like I know people don't read the long form some of the long format stuff I do like, but like in the last essay I did, I have to plug it like because I actually
Very
talk
deep.
about this.
They should look at it.
That essay was like that you're looking there at like 6 months of writing that essay. That was just every day working on that. Like there's 260 or something footnotes in that essay, and it deals with like some of the concepts we've dealt with in the earlier chapters, but that essay is so long and involved, but it actually finishes dealing with Ireland, like, and I talk about a guy called Sir William Petty, basically, who is a famous guy, but he he is the first technocrat, basically, in the 17th century. Really, I'd say he is the first true technocrat. You could say Francis Bacon might be the first technocrat, but because of Petty's application of he's one of the first political economists, so he's one of the first people to develop some of the techniques of political economy, of modern macroeconomic theory, basically. So like larger scale, looking at the economy as a kind of as a whole, and economic planning. He brought in demographics, and he was planning like in the 17th century how to basically manage the demographics of Ireland because they wanted to be obviously they were after colonizing it with in particular after Cromwell,
After the
and
plantations, yeah.
he arrived in like 1652, I think it was. I'm trying to remember exactly the year now, I can't remember. But anyway,
Uh,
I have it in the essay anyway. It's
1648.
all there. Yeah, well,
Damn
that's
it.
when Cromwell arrived. Yeah, but Petty
Yeah,
arrived a
but
little
the
bit later.
plantation
Like
after that, yeah, it
you
was planted. We were colonized.
yeah, and like
And
he's
what was he
talking
saying?
about
Everyone's blank slate.
Yeah, see, because it's all premised on the idea that they believed everyone was a blank slate. Like, so he's not
It's
talking about the
nurture.
Irish as being like racially inferior or anything like that. That's a much later kind of way of looking at things based on Darwinian evolution. What Petty is actually a lot like modern liberal progressives in that he actually believes everyone is effectively the same, and if we just blend populations, we can basically develop culture. Like, you know, so the progressive society is really all about controlling culture, and that's what makes it actually way more authoritarian because they want to control everything in your mind and everything you see, and so you are your perceptions basically. Like, and so Petty is writing in like alchemical terms because he was into alchemy and astrology. Like a lot of the
A
early
lot of people have
scientists
been.
in the 17th century were into all those things, and
Yeah.
so he's
Even Newton.
writing exactly. Yeah, he big time. He's big time occultist. Like,
Mm.
and and you know, so Petty is looking at the Irish, and he's written several books. Like, is one of them is like what was it called? The Political Anatomy of Ireland is one of them, and I cite from that one. I think it's the one I cite from, but he actually
Jeez.
describes how they're going to through the process of transmutation, which is an alchemical term. It means you change one thing into another, and
Mm-hmm.
he's saying through a process of transmutation and a mixture, we're going to basically manufacture the population in Ireland that we want. So we'll bring in enough English people over the space of 4 or 5 years. We'll marry them up with Irish women. We'll send the Irish women to England. And this will basically create a cohesive population. He's talking like Peter Sutherland in the 17th
Yeah,
century,
that's
you
the
know?
truth.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing about this. Like, it's not actually racist. It's actually worse because it's if it only it was racist, they'd say, well, we can't do anything with these people. They're just they're inferior. We have
Yeah,
to leave them alone.
inferior.
These guys actually believe that everyone is just destined to become one, and that's what's
Yeah.
the scariest thing about it. Like, the progressive liberalism is the most radical ideology. It's way more radical than communism. It's more radical than any kind of fascist ideology because it doesn't recognize difference, and so they view the entire world as being a future liberal democracy. And that's what the neocons were doing all over with American foreign policy. That's what Woodrow Wilson was thinking in World War One and everything. We're going to make the world safe for democracy. Every country is destined to be a liberal democracy, and that's totalitarian. That's real
Yeah.
totalitarian because you're not given like the whole world is destined to live under one political system. That's extreme. Like, that's
Yeah.
radical, like extreme way of thinking.
It,
And it's
it,
ignorant
it's,
of
an, it's, a,
culture.
it's a Jewish. Sorry, there's a religious. There's a religious group that has those aspirations. It's in the religion like that. Everyone will become a
Yeah,
globalized. It'll become a globalized world, and it'll be all like homogenous. But they're
yeah.
getting
Well,
rid of
there's
all the different languages, the different cultures of Europe. They're practically gone anyway. And the Middle East is very liberal now compared to even 10 years ago. Like, look at the boxing matches in Saudi Arabia, and sure, there's nothing left to Palestine after what they've done to it. Syria's in bits. I know it's not liberal, but it's not. It's probably not as wild as it was 20 years ago. No, it's not because Gaddafi's often taken out. It's just chaos, a lot of it, and other parts are kind of liberal. But I even seen these women over in India that were trying to commit suicide because they were transgender. This was in
mm,
India, and these are like peasants. So I'm thinking this liberal stuff has gone around the world, and like it's gone around the world a few times by now. It's 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 embedding itself in places that I would have never thought you would have heard of it, like places like India and that. So
yeah.
yeah, like his thing has kind of come true, but they had to go to war with a lot of those countries to break them down, and like, and then send all the people in here and all of that. It's just a mess, chaos. But is that what he foreseen? I forget
Who
that
knows?
guy's name. The fellow you were
Who?
talking about from the 1700s that was
Oh,
sent to
sorry. Yeah,
Ireland.
Petty. Yeah,
Yeah,
no. But
like,
Petty is
he
thinking
was
like
just
you have
talking
to
about
think.
Ireland.
Yeah, his immediate project is Ireland. You know, because Ireland was like the big kind of project. They had the American like mass. They had like where was it like New England and all. I think they were in at that time. Maybe Pennsylvania and all. But like the American colonies were starting. But like
Boston.
these guys were uh like there's a couple of things going on at that era. Like, so you had the development of republicanism. That's one of the ideologies, and you had the development of the kind of the strong state idea of Thomas Hobbes. Like, so Petty kind of took both of them because he actually trained. He was Thomas Hobbes's like secretary for a while in Paris, and then he also was familiar with Harrington, and Harrington inspired a lot of the Puritans who were very into Republicans. So the first Republicans in Ireland are the Puritans. You know what I mean? Of Cromwell.
And they were
Um,
copying the French Republic, weren't they? Really, even the tricolours.
no, that
It
was
was written
later.
that
That
in the
was
Burking
later.
article.
No, that was later. That was later.
But our tricolour is a kind of a copy of the French flag, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
In
it's
the
probably yeah, yeah, it
1850s.
is absolutely yeah.
Yeah, I seen a Burking article there today, and they were just talking about that, saying that maybe the harp with the blue background would be better because the fellow that was writing the article just didn't agree with that we copied the
Mm-hmm.
French. He thinks that we should be, we should think more of ourselves and just copying what happened in France. And he was actually saying that's one of the worst things that happened in Europe back then was the
Yeah.
French Revolution.
Yeah, well, a
Depends
lot
on
of
how you
people
look at it.
would agree, like
Yeah,
because what it did really, you see,
it
it's
brought
about
liberalism everywhere.
this speaks to the populist thing because in effect, like the French Revolution unleashed a kind of a populist kind of revolt, and it unleashed a lot of brutality and savagery and everything. But in the name of equality, it was all in the name of liberal equality and fraternity and all the rest of it. But those values are actually very dangerous. Like if you apply that, if you insist on applying them repeatedly, like you basically are trying to eradicate all difference and all human diversity, basically. And so the French Revolution is being the seed of the Irish Revolution is pretty dangerous. Like it's
Yeah, it is. I was just laughing at the chat there. Someone put emojis in, but yeah, that's what the guy was saying in the article. I knew that the tricolour came from there, anyways, and that our republic is a kind of a copy of that. But what were they called? Jacobites, those French lads that were going against the king and the
yeah,
royal system.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah. There was
they were
different groups of
they
them,
were
but yeah,
leftists of their day, weren't they?
yeah. There was a
Or were
magazine
they?
called Jacobin, still
Yeah.
called naming after them. But
But anyways, that's ancient stuff.
yeah,
What?
it's
Yeah. Yeah, but the point is, could we go a different route, like, or should I don't know. This lad was saying we should have a different flag. That's what I was thinking. But when I first seen that, I was there. No, no, I love my tricolour and all that. No, we don't need a different flag. But
yeah,
then when I seen his suggestion, the harp with the blue background, that would be a lovely flag. But that's the Leinster flag now. But yeah, that's the way it
yeah. I'm
goes.
not so sure about that. The blue flag. I'm not sure. I'd have
No,
to
I'm not
think
sure
about that one.
myself. As long as it's not the rainbow flag, that'd be the main thing. I think that's what a lot of the parties wanted. Remember, Leo Varadkar said that 5 years ago that we'll have to change the flag if we have a united Ireland. We'll have to change the national anthem. And I was thinking he wants the pride flag. I
It
know
would
he
be more
didn't, but
fitting, like, to the state of the country, really, wouldn't it? Like, be more honest,
yeah,
at least. Like, why pretend
it
like
would
there's
be
anything else here? Like, at this point.
exactly.
Yeah. But it's actually funny. The shift is quite pronounced, really, from that era. Like the marriage equality, gay marriage, whatever, and then you had abortion and all. Like they were on such a roll with all of
Yeah,
those successes, like and it looked invincible. And now, basically, those two mainstream parties can't even they can't even compete like with the fringe left, really, like because at least the fringe left kind of roll together like at a certain point, whereas most people are just not that interested in what they're producing, which is like it's their future unless they actually embrace this. Is why they're embracing a bit of populist talking points now. Unless they actually do that, because Ireland is quite unique in that we actually don't have like parties doing the populist thing on a mainstream level. Like the Tories in Britain they use that rhetoric. Like they're cynical. They're cynical. I hate them, but they use populist rhetoric all the time to make themselves sound like they care about these issues. Like so, but in Ireland, like it's an amazing situation. They've actually gotten away in the mainstream with not even signaling that they'll do something until now.
mm,
And the fact that they even have to say that says a lot.
yeah,
Like there is a shift, like in energy.
yeah. There definitely is, and it's because of all the other things like housing crime and all those other underlying issues. But we had those problems back then as well, and they were still on a roll. I think people were more naive back then, as to like they just said, right, fair enough. You want equality, of course, equality is a good thing. How can that be bad? But they didn't realize it was going to on a slippery slope down to a place where like you'd have children in school going to be talking about porn and stuff like that, and fellas going around with dog masks and all this weird stuff, and even the Pride Days themselves are so disgusting compared to back then. I don't even want to mention them really, but like if you look at the ones in LA and that, like so, I think people have realized, yeah, this is like a slippery slope. There's absolute truth to that. People that said that back then weren't
Yeah.
cranks.
Every single someone said this years ago. I don't know who it was. It said every single slippery slope argument ever made has been correct. and it's true because everything they did say about like gay liberation and all the rest of it, like civil rights, you could read stuff from that era where people are warning. Like if you ever, I'd love to do a stream on just the civil rights movement, like and all the violence that accompanied that. I actually have an article that'll be coming out in a few weeks that is going to be unreal because um, it's all about the race relations regime in Britain. And I've taken an article I did years ago and I've really reworked it, like, and put way more. I've researched things even better now, and rewritten it, like. But basically, it shows like that this is driven by elites. Like all of these ideas are driven by elites, civil rights, race, activism, all this stuff, anti-racism. This is all driven by elites. It's all produced in academic circles, basically, and elite circles, and they produced all of this revolution. It's all fake, and they allowed the terrorism to basically terrify people, you know. But if you look at what was going on, like in the '60s, like, I mean, American cities were burning, like, and throughout the '60s, you know, like there was many people were killed, you know, as part of that. And like if you told people back then like where we would be today, like they would have resisted it completely. They'd never have accepted this. Like, so like we've been put through a radical, like, this is the progressive paradigm. Like this is why I'm so interested in kind of researching all this. It's not just for the sake of the education. It's more to understand the paradigm, like, and how ideas evolve through time. Like the a lot of our problems really do go back to legal activism and the use of the radicalization of elites, basically. So the elites are radical. They're radicalized by what they're trained to be like. And
Do you mean civil society, like the NGOs and all these people that are trying to have a little bit of a say, and
well,
you know, they get 100 people and put them in a group and they handpick them themselves and they give them permission to do things? Or do you mean like people that we can't see?
we're talking
Because
about,
we could lobby too, Don. Like,
yeah,
we should-
theoretically you can lobby.
yeah.
You know, there's no doubt about that. Like, you are entitled to create an NGO
Pleasantly,
and to lobby.
not just
You know what I mean?
snapping at them
Absolutely.
like, oh, I was angry.
But,
We're trying
like,
to get around them.
I'm making an argument more to do with like society as a system, basically. And if you look at this, like most people's perception of how politics operates or how power operates is flawed, because they think, well, there's the Irish government, and you know, we're part of the EU, but we have an Irish government which is sovereign. The government is sovereign, and you know, that's fine, and we have councils. But like, there's actually, like, before you even get to that level, you have to go to like the ideas that are in people's minds and the attitudes they have. So people are trained to have certain values and to hold certain values dear. And so when people say Ireland is very liberal, well, it's liberal because that is the kind of moral system we live under. So all like values are ultimately like their theological values that have been politicized and turned into secular values over time. So there's a whole host of assumptions that people have based on their upbringing and their attitude. And people like in the West have been subject to really extreme like social engineering for a long time, you know, to look at every other, like our obsession with looking outwards. This has been the dominant theme since the Enlightenment. Like, we're looking outwards. We're looking at colonies in America. We're going to create the new world. We're going to travel all over here. We're going to investigate. We're going to map the entire world. Like, other cultures were not as outward thinking. And so I think if we're going to actually deal with things in the West, we actually have to start thinking in terms of ourselves. And we have to say, well, we're actually a global minority. We're actually losing power. We're actually being displaced in our own countries. And our elites are still totally outward looking. They actually look at the entire world as if it's going to, like, it's like Disneyland. And they're just a little liberal democracy in waiting. And that's why they have the attitude they have about immigration, because they think there's no big danger. We can just integrate. So they call it integration. We can just integrate these people. That's just transmutation. We're going to transmute these people into other people. That's magical thinking. Ultimately, like, these guys coming from these different, very vastly different regions of the world are different. And it's not right to assume that they should change because they are who they are. You know, it's naivety. And so we're so outward looking that we assume that every other culture is like that. And, you know, like the Western scientists developed anthropology. Like, as I understand it, no other society developed anthropology until they picked it up off the West, you know, because they were focused internally or maybe on like rivalries with other nearby peoples. Whereas the West has this like what's the word?
This outward looking thing. Or
Outward looking,
blank slate theory. Fucking,
blank slatism,
this hunger for labor, cheap.
a hunger for
All of
like
that.
Deliveroo drivers delivering pizza in sweaty boxes on the back of bikes. We just love our Bosch. We just love it, and we have to bring as many people here to deliver takeaway for as many fat bastards as we possibly can. And there won't be true freedom until as many Deliveroo drivers as possible are in the country. I mean,
It's
but that's
kind
what
of
that's what it's become like. It's become this
yeah,
like I
it
don't even
has.
know who would want their food delivered by these fellas.
No, I just go get it myself. But no, I wouldn't want it because you wouldn't know what to do to it. I wouldn't. But there's a lot of people that wouldn't even think about it like that. Most people wouldn't. But yeah, I don't know. Like, where do you go from there? I think people need to. There's a thing at the moment where and I'm the same. I'm angry because of how we've been wronged in so many different ways. Like so many different ways, from housing to this and that and the other. So but these NGOs or these elites or these civil society NGOs, they're able to talk to the politicians and get around them by being civil with them, not like chopping at them and calling them names and saying you're a traitor and all that. I think, like, when I say we, I mean Irish people that think this is wrong, and people that are, like that want some common sense brought back. They need to kind of get involved like that, because the people that you're talking about there are radical. They're up 24. They're probably even watching this now,
Yeah.
hate watching it.
No,
Like, I would not watch them on TikTok if they're talking
no.
about, all the progressive, and they always frame it as progressive. This is another thing that's a bad framing, because it makes you sound like you're old fashioned or that. But yeah, like lobbying them is the only way, and trying to make them see sense and make them see, yeah, there is a lot of people that want this change. So what
Yeah.
you're doing is going against the majority, and keep
You
on them.
Yeah, you have to go step by step, you see. So yeah, all these things have to be done at the same time. Like new institutions have to be created. And that's kind of happening. There are media institutions that have been created, like
Yeah,
Gript. Like the Burkean
yeah,
was created, like how long ago was that? Like 10 years ago nearly? Eight
yeah.
years ago. Like the Burkean, that was a start. Like that was I remember that when that came out, like that was like, the first kind of okay,
It
here's a
was
go.
great.
This is a publication of our guys kind of thing.
It
And
was breath
then
fresh air. Yeah,
and like Gript is not like it's obviously ran by an Atlanticist, but at the same time, Gript does a lot of really good journalism. Like their
yeah,
work on the courts and Matt Tracy and all, like these guys are doing
yeah,
really good quality journalism basically, and
yeah.
it's really chapping the ass of the establishment because that's actually very important. Actually, there's great like I could say like oh someone could say to me, what's the point in writing an essay that only a few hundred people will ever read? And my
Mm.
attitude to that is like intellect
I don't know who you
ideas
are.
actually travel.
Mm.
There's a great power in just documenting something and making it absolutely watertight, making a case, making an argument, showing a historical episode for what it is, drawing conclusions from it. It's intellectual development. And if
Yes.
you have in order to basically get anywhere, like you have to develop an intellectual movement. Every movement that has been successful in history was an intellectual movement. We could say, oh, the left are a bunch of idiots. No, they're not. They're actually really smart.
Yeah, because
The
you want to
trouble,
attract people that are like that,
yeah, like
intellectual people.
intellectual, ambitious people join the left because there's opportunities there.
It's the
And
paradigm.
so
Yeah,
it's the
exactly.
paradigm.
Opportunities. You're dead right.
And
It's
there's
same thing.
opportunities there. Yeah, they're very into careers and all the rest of it. And they really are religious. Like they really believe in a moral crusade. They think that what they're
Mm.
doing is morally just. So they look at us and they say, well, you're an evil person because of, your attitude on immigration.
Because you're giving out about your child in the box room. Like, the cheek of you. Like, you should
Yeah.
be giving up the hotel and being thankful that these men are coming in to make
But
coffee for you.
the test is like, is that while they're pretending to be all good and all, they'll then turn around to you and say, oh, you're on the dole and you're not working
Yeah,
enough and
as
you
if
should
that's
have
a
got a
diss.
real job. And it's like, they're very materialistic at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, it's very
Mm.
judgmental. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. They are
and they lie all
classist.
the time. They lie about people all the time. Like, they just put
Yeah,
out lies. Like, I see they're attacking this fella on Twitter there today, like that Terry fella, K fella.
seen
Like,
that
he
too.
made an
Yeah.
error reporting something like a year ago or 2 years, whatever it was, and they're coming into his comment section and they're just the nastiest scum
Mm.
like you could ever encounter.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like, if ever I talk to anyone or anything, but like
Ruthless.
you should actually just not engage with these people. Like
Block
sometimes I
them.
do it for the laugh, but like I
Yeah.
actually think this is a waste of time. The time that you're arguing with a leftist on Twitter is time you could be literally engaging your brain and doing research. And there's incredible power in that. That allows you to have much deeper vision and insight into what you're looking at. And you start putting the steps together. Like it's like building a wall. Like if you don't start with a foundation that is coherent, and like if you don't develop your own ideas, someone is controlling the ideas in your brain, basically.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
problem with the modern populist movement, is that the ideas are basically are non-existent. And so people think that, like, oh, if you just protest,
It's just
that
frustration.
it'll change. And it's like,
Energy and
is this
frustration.
just a big safety valve being released?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Do you know?
I think
Like,
the energy's been walked out of people. It's
yeah,
just like eventually you'll just get sick of it. And then where do you go then after there's no protesting left? It's like, oh, well, then it's just acceptance. But you can't come to that. But yeah, there is a great power in that, because what you're saying, even if there's only a few people reading those essays, the information in them, you don't know who's reading them. Even if it's only 200 people, two of those people could be very influential people in 5 year time. Two of them could be very influential people now. Some of them could be innovative people. You don't know what idea is going to spark an idea in someone else's mind either. So it's like the
exactly.
foundation of the wall. It has
It's
to
like
be.
atoms. It's like atoms
Once you
hitting off each
speak it
other.
out,
Like,
then
if you're like,
you
when
have
you
to
start
say words.
develop,
Become reality.
even when you started speaking out in 2016, like you thought, oh, I'm only a fella talking on the internet. What do I matter? But
That's what it
by
is.
doing that, we connected.
Yeah.
We created this bit of a thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it, like, that inspired. Like, I've met people who said, oh, I was really inspired by your Self and Critique doing that, like, or your
Yeah.
videos or whatever. Even though we thought our videos were,
I
I
have
suppose,
too.
by standards of modern production, they are shite. Like, but like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
But
I wouldn't promote them now.
no. But the points are still there from back then. They were, in the context of back then, they were like, I don't want to say groundbreaking, but they were not seen before. People just sitting
Yeah,
down and talking about things in Ireland that people don't usually talk about, or things that are taboo. No one had really done that before. Not that I know of, anyways. There was a lot of people that had problems with it and they were doing things on their own. But yeah, like what I'm saying is words become reality. So if you don't
exactly.
speak out the ideas, exactly, there's nothing that's going to happen to make the idea become reality. Nothing. The first step is to speak it out and to go through it, and to have it straight in your mind and all that, and
And that
just
is
speak it
what
out. Exactly. You build on that.
genuinely puts fear into our enemies. Like, is that when you actually start getting organized intellectually, that's when they're
That's what they
scared,
want, hate
because
speech.
you
Yeah.
actually, yes, and that's why they want to control speech. Because if you see, language is important because it allows you to articulate concepts. If you lose particular words, you lose the ability to articulate the meaning behind those words, which is far more. That's what's important.
Yeah.
So when I remember in 2016 seeing articles like about, oh, this term cathedral, that what's that guy's name, Mencius Moldbug and all,
I know who you're talking about.
and
Yeah.
now Mencius Moldbug is like knows JD Vance. You know what I mean? Like, so these ideas do percolate around, and you could say, look, I don't like him or whatever. I don't really give a shit. Like, the point is, some of his ideas that were part of what you would call the what was that called? Oh, it was pre-alt right. It was
Oh, yeah. Ron Paul time.
neo-reactionary,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Neo
neo-reactionary.
reaction.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that was a thing for a
Mhm.
couple of years, like, and that was totally minority. But every idea in the world starts off like that.
Yeah.
And if you're not developing, so you need to have that ecosystem where people are just constantly discussing things. There's power in just us sitting here now discussing things in this
Yeah.
way, is greatly powerful, and it helps people focus their ideas in their own mind. And
Yeah.
so I think
And
this
it
is incredibly
sparks.
important work. And I remember when people started giving out to us, and I remember when I started doing streams, like, I started
Yeah.
doing like articles, and they were saying, "Oh, what, you're a pencil neck, and you're all this," and it's like, I'm Action Man with a camera, like, and it's, well,
Pencil man.
what is your plan? What is your plan going to be like?
The action.
Realistically, you know.
Yes. And some people were saying, why don't you do more? Why don't you do more? Like, I didn't say I was going to do more. I always said I didn't want to run in politics, but having discussions about these things is important as well. Like, if you don't do that, well, you can't start off with. There's no start. That is the beginning point. Is to talk about things, and yeah, there is people like that have Twitter Spaces and all that, but and I do like them. Like, I like listening into them more than talking, because
Yeah.
I'd rather talk to someone that I know a bit better than people that you're not sure of, that you don't know. But when I'm listening in, it does be good. But um, yeah, just that, like, even that is
Yeah.
good as well. Anything that's enabling people to have conversations about this is a good
I
thing.
found what really inspired me is after my initial kind of getting into politics, when I was into the libertarian thing and all. So I did a very typical trajectory, like where I kind of started off very libertarian, Ron Pauli kind of person, and that would be my instinct, because I really don't want to do any harm to anyone. I'm not really interested in getting in anyone's way. Like, if you want to live a particular life, my attitude is generally leave people alone. But of course, now I've realized that you can't kind of do that as much. You have to actually, you have to protect certain values, like, but regardless, like, what really inspired me about the kind of the alt-right of 2016 and everything was that it was intellectual. Now, you could say it was too intellectual. Maybe it got a bit wanky. Maybe it was a little bit too NRXy, like, stuff. But at the same time, you were being met with ideas all the time. You were constantly hearing people who knew more about certain things than you, and they'd introduce you to something. So even if it's just talking about a philosopher, like two guys talking about Nietzsche, like, and it's like, well, I know something about Nietzsche, but I don't read Nietzsche really. But like, even if you just hear that is spreading. You're spreading people's understanding. You're giving people an enriching experience, and they then develop that inner confidence to actually talk about these things and learn. And they're like, I'm going to actually read that book. I'm going to actually go and read this. And it's like, you don't need to be afraid of intellectual movements. Whereas the populist problem is that populism starts off with a completely incorrect notion of power. And it's not, it's like, a populist is essentially someone who takes at face value everything that the system says about itself, and demands that, why isn't it doing what it says it's going to do? Whereas I look at power and I say, well, I have to be honest that, well, elites drive movements. Now, elites are into ideas. So ideas do move the bar, but elites have ideas. So if your ideas aren't influencing elites, or you can't create some kind of elite that can influence and interact institutionally, then your ideas aren't likely to be successful and to get any ground. So that's the problem with populism, is that it encourages activism, but it doesn't tend to have much ideas. And so this is where you end up at this impasse where people are kind of burnt out marching now, because it's getting into the winter and the government doesn't care, because the government doesn't have to care. The government can just kind of pretend that you don't exist for as long as it wants, really, and that's the sad thing about it,
But also, we can't be just reacting all the time forever. And I know that was just a phase back then, like, but constantly reacting to what they're doing. We should be saying what we are pro, like, as well, and what we want done, and not just. I know that was just a period, and it evolved into something else. But all those ideas back then were so good. Everything was so fresh, and it was all new. I love that time.
I mean, you remember the Hangouts? Do you remember the Hangout era, where it was like Google Hangouts, and you'd have Millennial Woes or someone doing a Google Hangout, and you'd just be listening, and it was a bit chaotic, but you'd have this cross pollination, and there was even there was people that wouldn't agree with you would come in there. Like, I remember when I started doing, and you should do probably the same thing. Like, you would actually, your videos would get served to people who wouldn't basically like them. And they'd be like, oh, this is horrendous and racist, and blah, Trump is a rapist, and blah, whatever the current thing was. And that was actually good, because it actually prevented kind of being stuck in a kind of a rut. But I've come to think that a lot of the modern, like, since 2017, I'd love to do a stream on this. I believe you can actually show that, like, since 2017 and the big clampdown on social media, everyone was spread out across multiple social medias. And I think they're bringing people back now because they kind of have a handle on it through technology and AI. They can kind of monitor, because they want to monitor what you're saying and what you're kind of doing, So I think you're giving a lot of this social media is just people just venting. You have two groups of people, or whatever it is, however many groups of people, basically venting. And ultimately, it doesn't have any teeth, And so you're kind of burning yourself out. You're like, oh, I'm going to tweet on this outrage. And there's just power in it to an extent. Yeah, like, if people do that every day, that's work,
It is, yeah. But I think since back then, like, as you said, you could put up a video and you get people coming in that the algorithm would give it to different people that aren't all thinking the same. But I think they're using AI even with YouTube, and they're sending the videos that they think would be for the racists to the people that they have already tagged as that. So there's no cross pollination anymore. And Twitter is always like this. Like, I think that's the agenda on there, is to keep different groups in those groups, and there's no kind of it's just like silos. Somebody said that before as an analogy, and it is like that. We're all in different just silos now. So yeah, like, you don't, unless you're going to talk to some leftists on Twitter or something like that. But even other people that are kind of would be open to being on this side, like you don't really reach them. They're just I've noticed by my tweets, like even the one at Jim McCann only has 30 views. If that went down the newsfeed once, it should have, like, I've nearly 1,900 followers on there. So I've been censored. The
Well, I
algorithms
mean,
have changed since back then.
you could get really conspiratorial about it, and we can't prove it obviously, but like what's going on there? Do you know? Like I know what you
That's the
mean.
thing.
Like you see certain
And it's
accounts and they
great.
just blow up, and like all of a sudden there's oh my god, million followers or whatever, and this guy is a new influencer. Like I actually don't like the whole influencer culture. You see, I'm just a cynic of a lot of this stuff. Like it has its utility, but like I think a lot of the influencer culture I don't
Depends
like
what you're
because
influencing.
it tends to like be like where an influencer basically takes a certain position. He's supposed to be your player. You follow him, and he's debating this guy who's a different thing. And it often feels like it's just kind of like polemical, and there's no real development with a lot of these characters. Like I mean, if you look at the guy, look at the guy who replaced Charlie Kirk, you know, in like they brought this new guy in or whatever
Hollyhand.
like, straight away,
Bryce
and it's like
Hollyhand.
this is like a job, like this is guy is just playing a job, like
Yeah,
and playing
it's
a
an
role,
actor.
like
It's like
like I am a conservative and I do this and I
yeah.
like this, I like this and I like this.
We have to
But
defeat
there's
the left.
yeah,
Oh, I
we
shouldn't
have
have done
to
the accent, but he has a southern accent.
yeah, and it's just
I'm
all
here. It's
very
not the
ridiculous,
left.
like
That's like 10 years ago. It's like right and wrong now. We're gone past the left shit. But
yeah,
yeah, they're just not like I wouldn't. I don't even. They don't exist. That's the way I am on X. Like you, I do block them. I try not to interact with those lefties unless I can really school one with an answer and I see he's wide open for
yeah,
something like an open goal. I'll go in then. But other than that, I try to block them as much as possible. But that
yeah,
guy that you're talking about there, Bryce, whatever, Holly Hand or whatever, that's his name actually.
right,
He got like 650 grand. I seen this in a meme now. I have to look it up
yeah,
and see is it true, but it's from APAC. So
yeah,
yeah, like nobody's buying his stuff. Even the MAGA people, like up
mm,
there, all those MAGA people, even the ones that don't really talk about that, are just undermining him and saying like, "Who's this lad? Like, we're not listening to him."
yeah,
People see through him. That's what I mean. But yeah, what a
yeah.
joke.
But yeah, it just that to me that just really exposed, like we knew it, like obviously, but just to see like how like it's like a conveyor belt of these characters can just be produced, like it's like oh here's the next one, you know what I mean? And he's like Mister,
Mm.
he's in a polo shirt and he's like kind of a nerdy kind of white guy, and he's like he's supposed to be the conservative, and he's your player, and he's gonna go fight, college pink hair whatever, like and it's like, well,
You
none of
debate
this
them for you.
really represents politics to me. Like to me,
No,
this is like kind of hyper real performance. Like it's not really politics. Like whatever this is, it's not politics.
no, it's not
And
moving the needle at the top in
yeah.
any way. It's not doing anything like that. No,
So
no. If anything, it's undermining politics, putting people
yeah,
like
I think
him
it
in.
actually prevents politics from happening. Like because there's the same thing with a lot of the turf stuff or whatever, where it's just all about the trannies or whatever. It's like, well, obviously I agree with what they're saying, but like at the same time, I'm like, is this really what I want to be talking about? Like, like as a is this really the priority? Like, is this really important? Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to kind of think about politics in a deeper way and develop our own kind of understanding that is uniquely our own, basically.
Exactly. If you change the ethos of the nation, that would change with it, anyways, the tranny stuff and all that, if you could. But Ireland should be able to be malleable because think of how we went from like a Catholic kind of theocracy back in the 50s, or the 40s, or 50s into, I don't know, kind of not in recession then for 20 years, kind of an agricultural economy, and then into this. And now everyone are all liberals, they're all shit libs, and people are so malleable. And then when I see what they went through with the coup, I don't want to go into that again, but there's just more evidence
Yeah.
that I don't know, like we we should be able to change it in a way that we should be able to influence it eventually, and it is happening. Like they have chartered flights going. I know it's not many; it's a drop in the ocean. It's all only like an act, kind of, but it's still a change. It's a
Mm.
pivot. It's starting to change, and I'm
But the
not saying that's a
danger is
good
that
thing.
that's just
If it
theater, like,
changed,
isn't
that
it?
would be
Like,
a
do you know
great
what I
thing.
mean?
Yeah, it is
Like that's
theater,
like made for TV. You're
but can you
sitting
bring
on the
people along and
news,
try and
looking at the 6 o'clock news, like, and Jim O'Callaghan is there, like, standing, and there's like fellas in yellow jackets standing around, and they're like, this cost €500,000 to deport 50 lads, like, or whatever it is, like,
that's nothing like
and you're kind
easily.
of going like, while you were there, like another 50 came in through the border, like.
Yeah, and they
So
dismantled an iPad centre in
that's
Athlone for them.
demoralizing.
But they're going to put them somewhere else in Ireland. They just moved the people to some other part of Ireland. Yeah, it is
Yeah,
demoralising. Exactly. Yeah, it is. Um, But I'm just saying, what I was trying to say is the people of Ireland, I think, could be swayed away from this liberal madness, like the run they had for that 10 year there with Varadkar from 2012 with the children's referendum, right up to gay marriage, right up to abortion. They got 3 in a row, but then they were rejected big time last year, and they tried to take mother out of the constitution. And then this
Yeah.
protest vote, like I think we're being influenced as usual by empires. On one side, you have the Trump thing, which is affecting us, affecting people, and then you have the English empire on the other side. But so, like, yeah, people just fall in line with these things. They always do. Normie people, whatever's coming out of them places is what they'll tend to be like. So, like,
Yeah.
10 years ago, it was all Obama and it was all equality and, you know, like fucking anti-racist shit. And everyone went with that. And now they're starting to come back more kind of a little bit conservative. I'm just saying they're malleable, that's all. But we've no way
Yeah.
of actually making them what we need. It's
They
just
are,
really-
yeah, but the good thing is they are malleable. Like in that
Yeah, that
means
is a good
that
thing.
if you actually do build a better mousetrap,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If you actually build a thing that's better, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
exactly. Though that is
Yeah.
it. Though
You can actually reach them, like,
If
you know,
you
to
can
some
appeal to
extent,
them.
like, you know, and like, yeah, look, I mean, the truth is that there's different kinds of messages that are needed for different people. So the majority of people don't really want to hear
Different
me
lifestyle.
talking through my ass about Nietzsche. Right, they don't need to
No.
hear me talking about William Petty was the first technocrat, and you see, this is very important now. And let me tell you now, Mrs. and you've all on the news that, you know, William Petty was a very important man, and I based my entire political economy understanding on Petty's work. And you know, they don't care about that. That's just us kind of exploring where ideas come from, and it's good to have a deep knowledge of that, like, so you can actually situate your own ideas in history, and you know where ideas come from and originate. But like, for the most people, you need a strong message. And it is like send them back is a great message. Remigration is a great message. Remigration. That's it. One word. You're just going home. That's it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's it. Go home. Like, nothing personal. Nothing personal.
Bye-bye.
Like, Irish
It's
people
not.
get deported from Australia every day of the week. And
Yeah.
I'm not up at night crying about it. Like,
No.
John Joe, come back. You know,
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's just how it
Exactly.
is. The Australians are entitled to send whoever they want home, and we have the same right. You know, that's it. No one has been having their human rights infringed. Fellas are deported from America all the time, you know, because they haven't got a green card. Like, historically, that's happened. You know,
Yeah.
like, you just have to,
51, I
some of
think.
these things are simple.
Yeah, 51 went to Georgia yesterday from the chartered flight with Jim O'Callaghan. Now, I know that's not only a drop in the ocean, right? And it is only a drop in the ocean, but will that have the effect of changing the perception of Ireland to these people that are outside, that are looking in, like people that seen O'Gorman's tweets 5 years ago, or people that didn't see that, they're only maybe waking up now, they're only becoming of age now, they're going to leave, and then they're looking at Ireland going, well, I seen they're sending 51 people out there, so I don't think that's it's not as welcoming as it used to be, or something like that. Maybe it'll change it that way, from the top down, kind of, that like it's not as welcoming as it was. There is no places here. And a leaked document came out as well. I read this on Grip today from the Department of Justice, saying that by November this year, they're going to be exhausted with accommodation, completely out of accommodation. A leaked document, like it's probably leaked on purpose, but whatever, I don't know. But but the fact it was leaked, I'm wondering, is this to try and influence outside of Ireland so that people see this and they say, look, Ireland is absolutely, like, there's no point in going there. We'll be living in a tent. It's winter. It's going to be freezing, raining non-stop every single day. Is it a deterrent? And will it work as a deterrent? I still see there's tents on the canal, though. I seen a chap that made a video there today, and there's tents back on that canal. Not as many as there was 2 years ago. They don't have to fence it off, but there was 20 or 30 odd tents there. Red trespass tents, the same subversives giving them the tents, and keep bringing them the food and giving them the credit and all that. But it seems that there's a kind of a confliction, because them NGOs and those fat women, a lot of them are, they're just single women that are bringing these fellas food and they're bringing them phones and stuff. Yeah, but like they're like Roger O'Gorman was going along with everything they wanted. It looks like they're not getting everything they want now. So there is a change. Like, obviously there's a change. Harris said it, but how it affects the world is all I'm interested in. I hope it just brings the numbers down. I think they're trying to do that. Are they trying to do it in a kind of a low key way to try and shut it off as low key as possible?
Well, no, they're trying to like, it
Are they
obviously
trying to
has.
bluff us?
They are definitely trying to bluff us. That's the first thing. They're
Yeah,
definitely trying to bluff
of
us,
course.
and they want to give the impression that they're on top of it. Like, but like, because of the extremity of the situation, there simply is no easy way to do this. Like, you actually have, like, they have to do things that the NGO complex does not want to do. So the NGO complex just wants to give them a house, and so this is why you see all the kind of ideas coming from the left wing involved. Just start building, and you have the kind of the liberals will say, just keep build. Just because like I hear them talking about regulations from the EU are stifling development, and like, so what does that mean? We're actually just going to do away with building standards because you want to bring in as many foreigners as you possibly can, like in a year. That's crazy. It's crazy. Like we don't have a growing population outside of immigration, basically. Like that's proven since 2016. Like if you look at, I've looked at CS. I did a thread on this. One of the first things I did on Twitter, no one looked at, was a thread I did on CSO statistics, like on immigration, like showing like from CSO graphs, like showing exactly what we've kind of dealt with. So you have basically young Irish people from following the Troika era, the crash, are emigrating. Some of them come back over time. You know what I mean? So some of the input will be from that, but from about 2016 onwards, you have net immigration running out of control. And it's the same. Actually, very similar story is told in Canada and all over the world, and that's because I think someone said it in the chat there a while ago. But, I can't see it. But basically, they were. This is an economic thing. They're trying to pump the economy. Like, so every Western country has both declining fertility and is driving immigration to try and keep up with social welfare payments, pensions in particular is the big thing, and that's the gamble. And it's because of their blank slate ideology. They think that everyone who comes here, this is going to magically pay for pensions and everything, whereas in reality, like it's not going to happen.
No, not with family reunification. Sure, they're bringing their own pensioners over here. Some of these people,
yeah, I've seen that too.
They're
yeah,
allowed. Yeah, did you see that? I seen that as well. Like a fella on a crutch, like an outlet. Like, where's he going? He's coming in
I've
straight for the
seen
pension.
people, if you have to attend hospitals the odd time with
Blank slate.
family and all, you actually do see like there's actually a lot of elderly people from migrant backgrounds in the country, like because of family reunification.
And did you see where Germany were going to bring the working age up to 73? Sorry for cutting across you, right? I know I didn't. We haven't done that all stream.
How dare you? How dare
you? We're bringing the age from 65 up to 73, and someone made a meme saying that we brought these people into pair of pensions, and now they're bringing the natives are going to have to work till they're 80 to pay for these lads.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Like Fritz is going to have to keep working. He'll be in his 90s, like underneath a fucking machine in the Ruhr, like, and like Mohammed has like 2 wives and 10, 20 children, like, and 15 grandchildren on the way by the time he's in his 40s, like, they're all in the fucking toll. Yeah. I mean, what a life, like, and this comes down to just the total naivety about like, these different populations, like, like if you want to bring in workers, like I wouldn't be going to North Africa to do that, like, that would be like not like there's not much industry there, you have it, and see these countries that they have this population explosion, and this is what it is. This was this explosive population growth was what gave you the Arab Spring, which was obviously obviously was egged on by elements of Western, let's just say Western strategists definitely had a hand in manipulating that. I'm not going to talk about it, but like whatever, like that situation was basically young men were in abundance, and anywhere there is young men in abundance, there's revolutionary potential. And we could end up like that, but the trouble is that we have a smaller, younger population, but we're going to end up with their younger population doing things over here. So, you can see what's happening every day now in the news, like with these kinds of populations kicking off, like these people will be very volatile, and we have an aging population. Potentially, this could be a source of major disruption in the future, like moving forward. Like,
yes, and I don't want the next generation growing up thinking that it's normal to grow up in a town feeling like you're a foreigner or you're a minority or the Irish white people are less than the outsiders. I don't want that to become normalized. I think that's what they're banking on. The next generation will grow up and they won't know that what we remember from the 80s, the 90s, even the 2010s, even the 2000s and the 2010s up to 2019, right? That it was a homogenous country, it was safe, all of that. People that are born now are even really like young people now, whatever, 15-year-olds around, they're growing up in this change. Ireland has changed now. So like, that's important too. How do we reach them? Like, I don't know how you do, but like, it's like we're the last generation that remembers that Ireland. Well, not us, maybe the next one after us. Or
I remember it very clearly, like how homogenous like I remember this. It was like a switch went off in like 2003, And I remember like seeing that when I started working, basically, that was when I witnessed like straight away, all of a sudden there's all these guys from Lithuania and Poland. And listen, honestly, like a bit of European immigration is certainly not a bad thing. Like especially, I don't think any person really would say we should never have anyone. I don't know anyone that would say that, but that kind of was the kind of thin end of the wedge, like. And then at that time was when we got all the anchor babies
huge change
from outside the EU, like who came in at that time. And now like I'm looking at videos of young Irish fellas getting the shit kicked out of them by like literally a gang of like 100 guys from different ethnic stock running after them, like and you're kind of going like, this is like, I remember before these guys were even in the country, like these guys were literally born at that time, probably like just got off the plane and the mother just gave birth like in the Mater hospital or something. And here we are 20 years later, and this young fella in Ireland is getting the shit kicked out of him, and he doesn't understand what an Irish Ireland even looked like.
Yeah.
And that's the power of demographics, and how quickly the wheel turns, like, and with all of the, like, our government has at every step exacerbated this, like, and leaned into doing it, like, and I'm going to do a whole series. I'm going to say this now. My plan is to do streams on all of this stuff, like, because I've got so much stuff amassed that I just want to get out now at this point. Like, I'm not going to be able to write it all down in an article because it's just too much to talk about. But it would make really interesting material to comment on, and I could pull up loads of archived links and even some video and stuff that I've archived and stuff, and to show people what was going on in these years when these decisions were being taken, and the treachery that like has occurred, like it's unthinkable. It's actually unthinkable. Like the difference, like I think of what young people who are coming into school age now, like the country they will inherit, like,
oh my god,
even people that I know that are 20 years old, like, and the world, the country that they live in now is so much inferior to what we grew up in.
And this is why even us talking about this now, some of these lads might see that, and then they'll know that there is people that's not much older than them that absolutely remember what this is like, and it can be achieved again. And that's the main thing that they need to remember and to act on. That's the main point they need to take from it, is that, yeah, it can be achieved again. It's not gone beyond the beyonds, I don't think. But at the moment, we are in a bad place. There's no doubt about that. Like, the country has changed. So it's just, yeah, like, I know we won't reach them all. A lot of them will become leftists or whatever, but I'd hate to see that it just fizzles out, like with this last generation that remembers the homogenous Ireland. I don't think it will. There's a lot of young lads that are interested in this, and they didn't
young
grow
lads
up
are
in
more
homogenous Ireland.
Like, if you look at the National Party and all, like the young lads in that, like, are really mobilized. Like they are, like they are the best of the best, basically. Like, they're the best. They're the cream of the nationalists, like, basically, because they are actually getting to the fundamental point is, this is our country. I'm not going to talk about crime. I'm not going to tell you about, like, well, it's okay as long as they come in and they don't commit crime. It's like, there's literally like an excess population in these other parts of the world where there's billions of people, and over the next like 20 or 30 years, many of those regions are going to keep growing in population. And if you look at a country like India cannot provide employment for all of its people, basically. So India is involved really in exporting a huge glut of unemployable people for them and getting them into Western countries. And that is a huge source of power for them. Like, in terms of diaspora, like the idea of a diaspora population, India has a lot of power now. If you look at Canada, like, they've kind of colonized Canada like very quickly. Like, in about 20 years, they've kind of gone from a fairly small population in Canada to dominating entire sectors of the economy. It's the same in story, kind of similar in America. Like, if you look at the tech companies, like, a lot of them now have Indian CEOs and everything. And, a lot of these companies then are they emphasize hire, because you're bringing in this whole culture thing of like, well, I hire Indians, and they have they can often have very different ideas about ethics and about hiring practices and everything.
Especially about how to get rid of their waste. I've seen some amount of videos of that, Indians just pulling up the side of the road and dumping things into the hedge, dumping things into the rivers in Canada, and people filming them, trying to shame them, but they do not care. They're going to turn it into the Ganges.
I know, yeah.
These pristine waters in Canada that are like there for eons, and they're just dumping crap.
Isn't it amazing to think that like to boomers, like, Indians were like exotic. It was like crazy. Oh, imagine meeting an Indian. It was crazy. And they used to, and some of them would go during the kind of human potential era in the 60s and all. They'd be going out to India to do yoga and to like listen to
Yeah,
gurus
I
and the
always thought that was
Beatles, you
cringe.
know. And yeah, but it was
But
totally soft engineered, you know.
yeah, but back then it was they thought it was a good thing. Like you're getting enlightened, or you're going to find yourself, or you're going to see the world, or whatever. But like by the time I came along, I wasn't into that. Maybe it's just me. That never appealed to me. That
No,
new
no,
age shit.
it was a boomer paradigm, like really.
Once
But
I see the
but
statue with an elephant's nose, I'm like, get that away from me. I
but
don't
like
want
we're so like we see it up close now, and we're like we don't want anything to do with this. You know what I mean? Like I don't want anything
no,
to do with it. Although you know
no.
yoga and all is cool. Like I've
Oh yeah,
nothing wrong with doing that. Like whatever. But like the actual like you don't need to import all these people like to your country. Like this is like but
madness.
that's how quick it was. You know, just in the space of a few decades, when you're not looking at this stuff, like this is how quickly it happens. Like and so
There's 2,000 a month coming in. Someone showed me on a statistic, roughly Indian people
yeah
for the tech sector in Ireland, because a lot of them are programmers and they're into all that coding and stuff. A lot of them are into that, and they have a scam culture over there as well. I'm not saying I'm picking them out specifically, but they do. Like if you look at YouTube, there's videos of lads that are catching scammers that are doing scamming in India, and they're able to like turn their own cameras on them and show them that they're watching them and all this. There's millions of videos of that stuff. So they have that culture as well, and they're bringing that with them as well. So and they're just been let in like blank slates, and they're anything. They're not like us, is what I'm saying. I don't mind like one or two, maybe one Indian takeaway in a big town or something like that. There's actually an Indian takeaway close to me now. I don't go to it, but I've no problem with it. It's a restaurant you can sit down in, but like having 2,000 a month coming in is mental. It's absolutely mental. And whatever industry they're coming in for, we need to get rid of it, because the the culture of the nation and the demographics of the nation, and this being a nation, is more important than whatever GDP or PRSI or whatever is coming off those couple of fucking coding things. Maybe it's for AI or whatever.
yeah.
First time I
And you know
have
what?
cursed.
As part of the kind of like all that and all this research I've been doing, like you know, like that whole idea of like importing large groups of populations, like that's a very much an Anglo type attitude. Do you know, like there's
Yeah.
the fact that our economy is based on this kind of Anglo, like it evolved out of that 17th century kind of period where all of that infrastructure, like the stock market and all, was getting created, like and
It's like
yeah,
we're having a
and
Windrush thing
plant
here now.
like America, when you think about it, is literally founded by a few plantations. Like the first like settlers in America just created a few plantations. It was like tobacco and all this kind of stuff, and like that is the foundation of America. Like people going about this, the Constitution, and you know that's fine. That came later, but like the actual founding ethos of America is like we're a plantation, and like all you know the Caribbean and all people were sent to Barbados and everything and worked to death or whatever, and but that kind of attitude of like, well, we just have to make labor mobile and we just make capital mobile and this will generate you know economic freedom and economic wealth. And you know the truth is like, well, you know, every economy has to be managed, and the truth is that it's just because we have been on this kind of way of thinking about economics, I think, is that we just cannot think outside of it. Like are we supposed to, because of economic efficiency, basically abolish our own nation? You know, like this is crazy, crazy talk. No one would consider such a thing. And yet you look at a country like China. Now, you can argue with China is authoritarian or whatever. I'm not going to get into all that. But the truth is that China doesn't basically have an immigration culture, and yet China is the dominant global economy. Everyone tells me every 2 weeks it's going to collapse. Yet it doesn't. It doesn't collapse. It keeps going, and it makes everything that we basically consume. So our Western economy, based on this kind of you know, transnational movement of capital and labor, has basically ended up as nothing more than a hollowed out economy. You have the gig economy. Like as a millennial, basically, I think you basically are a millennial like as well, but like basically we just kind of grew up with the gig economy post Troika, post great financial crash of 2008 being normal. So you can't get established. There's no long-term employment. You're constantly having to look for jobs. You have to pay your own insurance. You have to do all these things. If you want to be a small business, you're getting raped because you have to pay for everything. You get none of the benefits basically. And so we have this kind of like hollowed out economy where you know immigrants are kind of piped in to generate GDP, and yet China is doing this. They're taking the kind of what would you call it, like the centrally planned kind of like fascism really. China is kind of a fascist economy. Like it's a command economy in a sense, And people say it's communist. I think it's actually more fascistic, like, and it actually works for them. Like, they actually have elevated millions and millions and hundreds of millions of people out of poverty in the space of like 50 years. And yeah, yes, they were handed like the license to do that by American industry and Nixon and everything that time. And Nixon went over and Kissinger, and they said to the Chinese, "We're going to offshore our manufacturing," and that's the deal. Like, and that was the deal that was struck. And Americans can shout about it now, and they can say, "Well, we gave everything to China." It's like, yeah, and now what? Like, it's not China's fault that your elites fucked you over, and that's there's going to have to be like a reorganization in where our econ and if you look at what's going on in Europe with the Nord Stream, the Ukraine situation, like we're basically being divided from having cheap energy with this massive energy exporter right on our border, and we're buying energy for a far more expensive rate, which is going to make us totally uncompetitive. It's already affecting German industry. The EU then is affected hugely by that because Germany is the biggest economy. Chinese cars since 2020 have been the dominant car maker in the world. They've eclipsed everyone. All of the computer technology, this is all basically made in China. Every tool you buy, everything is made in China. The solar energy that we're shifting to is made in China. You're muted, actually, if you want to jump in there.
Sorry about that. I thought I was talking there a few times. Yeah, I was talking. No, I'm saying like everything. We even gave them our mercantile, like our clothes, everything you can think of, from the microphone, keyboard, the table, your jumper. I guarantee you, there's some of it comes from China. Like because I know from my own town, there used to be like a shoe factory here. There's none of them in Ireland now. Never mind in my town, but they're all in China now. So like, yeah, Europe's economy is over there, and there needs to be a reorganizing, like what you were saying. But that's a high level kind of a thing. But like, it's not China's fault exactly that America gave them all their business, and then Europe copied it. It's just that they're doing things cheaper. It's because they were in poverty that they could do it 10 times cheaper. And maybe that will come to a situation eventually where it'll level off and there won't be any advantage to all of this export import. It'll be cheaper to do it in your own country. Maybe it'll come to that eventually, because like the more they become middle class and all that, they'll become accustomed to that. And well, I don't know, maybe their birth rates will drop or something. I don't know, but I was saying I admire kind of China's model, apart from the social shame and the credit scores and all of that crap.
Yeah.
Like the hate speech. Like authoritarian with the economy isn't too bad if it's in your interests.
But they actually
But they're not
send
losing their
bankers to
nation.
jail. Like, isn't that crazy to think about? Like, they actually send bankers to jail, like, for doing stuff. And
Yeah,
like, we literally, like, we have someone like Lagarde
we
in
bailed them
the
out.
IMF, like, and she should probably be in jail, and yet she actually then is rewarded for this
Taxpayers
corruption
bailed them.
with a new
Yeah.
job in the IMF, or I think it's the
Yeah.
ECB. Where is she? Is she in the IMF or the ECB? I think it's the ECB. She is. Sorry, but
Both
regardless,
of us, yeah, anyway.
that's the difference. Like, like, I thought it was amazing. It was an amazing mask off moment, like that time with the Nord Stream thing, like, and then Seymour Hersh wrote out that article basically explaining from inside sources inside of the intelligence infrastructure in America that, yeah, we did that, or our proxies, whatever, they use proxies sometimes. Like, we did that, that we okayed that. And like, not one European leader came out and said, this is disgraceful. Not one. And that speaks to the manner that Europe is basically a colony. Like, we are a colony of America. Like, ultimately, there's all this, like...
You're talking about giving the economy to China. Nobody came out and condemned that.
No, I mean about the Nord Stream pipeline.
Oh, sorry, yeah. No, because okay.
But yeah, the Nord Stream pipeline was literally like, that was a major terrorist attack that was okayed by our supposed ally. And this has literally, like... This divides Europe, because Europe is basically divided along east and west. There's a line, basically, some people call it the Butthurt Belt, but it basically goes from the top, from Finland, down along through the Balkans and into into the Mediterranean, like, and that divide, and it's like the Orthodox versus Western, like, line as well, but basically east and west, and basically extreme nationalism is encouraged along that line, because the Americans and the English, the Anglo-American powers, basically, they want to keep Europe divided like that. This is the longest running thing in European politics. And I've been like in all the reading I've done about the creation of the European Union and everything, I've really come to realize that it really was America that created that whole idea, and they
Yeah,
really are about keeping Europe in it boxed in a certain kind of way. And
yeah.
like the fact that our leaders, like literally, like don't even call that out and say, "Is this true? Like, can we investigate this?" Like the Polish, I think it was the Polish prime minister came
That's
out and
because of
said,
World War Two, though.
thank you for this." You know what I mean? Thank you for doing
Yeah,
this.
but that's because they have the mindset that the America came in and helped
Yeah,
them beat the Nazis. It
yeah,
all comes from that, isn't it? It's all from that. Like and America had the idea that in World War One they had to get involved, and this was the narrative. We had to get involved in 1880s as well with wars with Europe, and then in World War One and in World War Two, and after World War Two, that's it. We have to re-engineer them because we
yeah.
have to try and socially engineer them. We have
That
to take
whole
control of that
story
place
is amazing.
because
What
they'll
they
keep
did,
going to
like
war.
with the
That's what
social
their idea.
engineering, like
Yeah, but from their point of view, it was they'll keep going to war if we don't do this. Every 10 or 20 years, there'll be another war that we'll have to fight.
hmm.
That's what they were saying. I don't think that would have happened. I don't see why it would. Our natural
No,
state is not war. All these wars were setups, actually, when you look back at, especially World War One, getting America into it. But
hmm.
um, yeah, but that was the narrative, like that. Uh, After World War Two, there's been so many wars, even though bankers start these wars. But anyways, that the only way to stop this from happening is to bring in social engineering and to control everything. But I'm glad we're an island or not over there, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of means we should be able to do our own thing, kind of a little bit, not like totally, but
What I
if we had
find a
it,
bit worrying about our situation economically is that we actually had a kind of a flexible economy, like up until really about 20, up until the crash, like really. Ireland was kind of a flexible, we were known as a flexible country, like, and we had the ability to kind of quickly change and to try things out. And so, when, like, you can basically thank Haughey for bringing most of that FDI into the country. It was Haughey that really did that. Like, he was the kind of visionary. He got in. There's a whole story with this. I can't remember the details really, but I know Haughey was the guy who basically brought in some of these economists to basically plan that boom that happened in the 90s,
yeah,
and the idea was we
the
were
90s boom was
agile.
all right.
It was good, yeah, obviously. I mean, we all want boom, but
Mm.
like but what came after, like, is that people have just no, there seems to be very little ability to think. And what happened was the state expanded so greatly as well. Like, the cost of our government now is just multiple times of what it was then. The scale of the government, and it's more incompetent. Like, there's less competent people in it. There's no accountability. And it's like, well, if we have any kind of contraction in the economy at this point, like, there's so many things that just wouldn't work. How would you possibly deleverage all that, like, and take the scale out of it? I don't, how do you do it without catastrophic kind of failure? So the systems
Yeah,
now are there. They're so delicate and large and likely to fail.
yeah. So yeah, economically, that's kind of our weak spot. That is the weak spot. I don't know how do we change that. Um,
You would have to get like the top people. You would have to get people like David McWilliams, you know, to come in, like, and all the and get you have to get a committee together, like, of people, and you really have to think in terms of like a 10-year plan, 20-year
yeah,
strategy, how we're going to actually pivot away, because we're just tied, and like they're even talking
tied
about
to
this
it.
diplomatically, like we're tied in between America and Britain. I'm sorry, in Britain and Europe, and so, like, with the way things are going, like, we're kind of in between two chairs, like, and we can't kind of find our own kind of footing, and we're very vulnerable, like, because if that FDI does actually dry up, I mean, part of me wants it to dry up, like, from a kind of a pure, like, bitterness. I'm sick of what's going on with the FDI driving the immigration and the housing situation and everything. But uh, like, if that happened, it'd be catastrophic. And like, what do you pivot to? Like, to actually build factories and things, it takes years to do that. To create markets, to open up markets and everything, it's a huge undertaking. Like. So
Yeah. So is there any way that we can, since like the Trump administration is sort of anti this culture war, anti the woke, is anti the left? Well, on the veneer on the front of it is like the government should have more leeway to kind of to pull away from these things now, like more permission. You wouldn't have been able to do it as much under Barack Obama or maybe under Joe Biden. Like he was a real authoritarian, Joe Biden. When you think back what he was doing, like by now, after 1 year when he was in America, he had like January 6 lads all locked up, 1,000 of them or something like that. By now, like
mm,
Trump has done nothing. But I'm just saying, So Trump is more reasonable. That's my point, and he is anti-woke, supposed to be in all this, and anti the left, anti mass migration, all of the things we are kind of. That's what he says, but nothing gets done. But they could use that as an actual, a ramp to say we're going to like that's our permission from the empire or whatever. We can do it because that's the way things are changing. The winds have changed that way. So we've permission to absolutely go with this now, go foot to the floor and push back on all this stuff.
Yeah. I just
But
see
there's
that
only
there's
3
like
years left
the
now.
quality of the people is lesser. You know what I mean? Like I think there was a lot of like there was a lot of genuinely kind of talented people. And maybe they are still, you know, maybe I'm just being pessimistic. But I just don't see where they are like and how you can kind of get those people. It seems to me that there's a lot of people who are full of just groupthink. And the idea of even thinking on these terms is just too much. And in my view, like you should have this even if you don't even do this you should have it as a side strategy because we're in such a volatile time now that you have to have another strategy. Like that FDI literally could be brought home in the morning. Like if you had a situation where Trump is replaced in 2 or 3 years by someone even more radical, and he'll say, "Well, I don't actually, like what the situation is in Ireland, and I'm demanding that these companies come home." That'd be very popular with Americans too.
100%
So,
tariff.
like, yeah, I mean, these companies have no real loyalty. Like, I mean, they're really here because of the tax system. Like, that's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
so
Like someone could get in and say, look, you come back to America, no corporation tax. But if you don't, it's 100% tariff. And he could even say, we'll subsidize your factory. And that's it. They're gone.
yeah,
They would, and absolutely, if the workforce is getting paid similar wages, they'll be gone. They have no loyalty. So, yeah, maybe we need that. Some people do think that, like even Justin from the National Party years ago was saying that it might take an economic crash before people will, or before the country and the leaders here would actually pivot away from this trajectory that we're on, which is just
probably true.
economic growth forever, and it's unsustainable. It just can't happen forever. It is probably true. If that happened, that would be one way. But I don't know if that'll happen. If they let that happen, to keep printing money, as far as I can see, quantitative easing or whatever. So, will a recession come? I don't know.
Well, look, we've been 2 hours here now. We've covered a lot of
No
ground.
way.
We have. I just
That's
looked at the
crazy.
time, and yeah, we did 2 hours. But I think I'll just run through some of the comments here. I haven't looked at the comments. I just want to run
Yeah,
through
go
because
ahead.
people have been commenting there. And I'll just
It's
pick it. I'll
11
just read
o'clock
through
now.
what we have.
That flew.
People are pointing out a number of things.
I thought about an hour and 15 minutes, I would have guessed. Way off.
Energy security has been brought up. A couple of people here, including Lastru Gale. He says about the economic situation. The first step would be energy, basically energy security, which is I agree with that very much. Like that's exactly why the Nord Stream thing was so extreme. Like, and the fact that no one has even like brought that up as like this is an attack on you. We're supposed to be an ally, and yet you've done this like through your proxies, but whatever. But still, this is an absolute like affront. Like imagine if a European country blew up like infrastructure like that in America.
No, it'd be
It'd
murder.
be unthinkable.
But didn't that hurt Russia in some way as well? Like isn't it that Nord Stream, was that going to Germany or Russia? Or from
It was
Russia
going
to
from
Germany?
Russia to Germany. Yeah.
So it hurt both
Yeah.
of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were just trying to bring chaos. That's that Biden administration. Them radicals were in over there, and they're like cowboys. They don't follow their own rules or regulations, even international laws flat out. And you can see a country at the moment that just doesn't listen to any international law. Why can't we do that? Like there's it's established now that it can be done and there's no consequence.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
on top of the energy, the second he says would be trying to push the our economy into something more indigenous, manufacturing based, chips, AI, etc. Well, there is the basis you see to have because of the factories that are here. There is the basis to build on that. So that's true.
clothes. We should start with that. Bring them back. Everything you buy comes from China. It doesn't matter if it's socks or a hat, or even if it's a hat with a leprechaun on it. Made in China will be written on it somewhere. We should start with that mercantile.
Yeah.
Like what have we got?
Yeah,
here
well,
now?
yeah. I mean, manufacturing
Loom.
there's so many spin-offs to manufacturing. You see, this is the thing. Like when you make something, like there's all the inputs, there's all the services for the workers, there's all this stuff, and then they're spending money in the economy. The problem with like the kind of gig economy is that no one is established, and you're kind of with the online economy is that, you know, people are all over the place, and there's less of the spin-offs, I suppose. They like the idea when I remember reading about like when they were planning the original economic takeoff kind of strategy in the late 50s and 60s and all, and you know, which was noble, but you know, the idea was that this would produce takeoff, you know, and the idea would be that you'd bring in these companies and you give them favorable terms, but within maybe 10 to 20 years, you'd have this spin-off where like there would be an indigenous kind of industry. And so there was all kinds of things were done. There was cars being made here for a while, you know, even.
Yeah.
But you know, it didn't last, you know, unfortunately. And like I think there's been a failure to acknowledge that there was actually like people lionize that era because of the successes, but they don't take stock of the failures really. That like, well, we have to be honest, like it didn't really work to take spin off industry the same way that it ideally should have, you know.
No, it didn't. Yeah, there should have been all feeder in. Once one of these industries is open up, there should be so many feeder industries that's going into that, and it creates more industry. And no, that was all given to China because of how cheap they can manufacture things, and there's such a huge population of people. But I think eventually it's going to get to a stage where it'll cost more to bring that stuff by ship than what you're paying over there, because eventually, like, they're just going to come up and up and up until they're the same level as America economically, where they expect the same things, and wages will go up that high. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. Like, who knows about that? That's really high level economic stuff that I'm just
yeah.
you know, just bantering about.
Well,
you
the
know,
good news
but-
is we hit 33. So that's the Masonic
Whoa.
number hit anyway. So here we go now. Here we
Oh,
is.
we're
You know,
screwed.
now we've hit the
Don't do
33.
that. Screenshot that.
I know. But yeah, there's so much schizo stuff out there, you know. But anyway, I'm gonna do some plugs anyway. So fuck this. Basically, if you want to talk about masonry, I actually in that last article I wrote, there's actually a lot about masonry and Rosicrucianism in there, so you can read about it in a non-schizo way and how it influenced 17th century elites and everything. So there's that. Do you want to plug anything? So
Not
I've got
really,
your Twitter account and I have your Telegram.
That's
So
all
what
I
do you want
have that I use.
Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, you don't have a channel like these days. Like,
No, I only have the old BitChute with a load of old streams on it, but I'm not going to plug it. No need to.
Yeah.
People that know it's there, that ever want to look at them, they know it's there. But there's those are contextual from back then. No, I've only my YouTube channel, Celtic People Archive, but I never use it for anything. I went live last week and I said we might go live on a stream sometime, but no, what's there is fine. Telegram and X, that's mostly it.
Yeah, I have those links in there, so you can find critiques on Twitter and Telegram, and you can follow me, of course, as well. My links are in there, and I have what I would actually ask people to do would be go to Substack, and definitely I'm shilling the Substack because that's where the majority of my effort these days goes into. And
but even your X is very good.
Yeah, well, I post something on X most days. I make an effort to tweet and do something. And I don't like to do slop posting. I like to do something that's like I like to throw in some useful thing. And so I obviously have the YouTube channel. I'm waiting on to get Rumble. I'm trying to get Rumble to take my details, but they don't seem to accept my channel as for streaming. I can't get it verified. Is the word verified?
Yeah.
So if people would please go over to the Rumble link and the Odyssey link in the chat or in the description of this video and subscribe. If I get enough followers over there, I can actually start streaming over there, because you never know how long YouTube is going to last. Like I've heard of people getting the Layman's Take was taken off of YouTube there a week ago, and he did nothing wrong. Like it was terrible. So if people could go to the Rumble, and I'm going to be doing a new videos coming out in the next week to do with that article that I wrote, that essay, that really long essay of the last part 4 of the Global Education series. And I'm going to have other stuff coming out on Substack and videos, and I'm going to do streams. And if you could go to those links and subscribe over there, just so you'll get notified, and we can build all these different platforms. And I think we'll do some more streams pretty soon again. You know what I mean? We could plan something, you know.
Yeah. You don't know what's going to happen that we could be delighted to come on and talk about. Maybe something will happen, or you never know. But yeah, absolutely, I would. But yeah, people should subscribe to your Rumble. Make sure you do that, because you need enough people to get verified. And if you can't get verified, you can't stream. So it's very important, if you do use Rumble, just give them a sub, because why not?
If I can get to I think it's like 15 or 20 or something. I think if I get that number, I can actually stream, I think, without having to get verified, because they won't take my number for some reason. I don't know what's going on. But that is basically it. We'll call it a night. Thanks everyone. See all the guys in the chat there. Some of the names I remember. See, Emmanuel Godson was in there first off.
Yes.
Good to see you, mate. You know, I hope you're doing well. And
I hope you're all doing well.
I'm sure we'll be back doing some other stream, and maybe I'll do some other different streams too. Even on my own, I have a few things I could stream about anyway. But
You should.
um,
I might as well.
yeah,
If I
yeah,
do,
you
it'll be
should.
on the Celtic People Archive YouTube.
Yeah,
It's only a small channel, 270 subs.
yeah. Well, if people
Um,
can find that, you can search that Celtic People Archive, and
But
if I
yeah,
can find
thanks
it,
for
I'll put it in.
thanks for hosting the stream, Don. Yeah, I enjoyed
Yeah.
it. Good chat.
No, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's nice to have someone to talk to. It's great.
Absolutely.
Okay, everyone,
Breath of
take
fresh air
care.
for me.
I'll see you later. All the best.
Good night.